Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to our meeting of November 10th. I will now officially call the meeting to order and state the time as 1 p.m. To start with, we'll begin with our land acknowledgement and a moment of silent reflection, thinking of past veterans and the meeting ahead. I will now ask members of council to declare any pecuniary interests. Seeing no hands, we'll move on to approve of the agenda. May I get a motion to approve today's agenda as circulated and or amended? Deputy Mayor Byrd. As circulated, Councillor Hobbs agrees. All in favor? Motion's carried. I'm now looking for a motion to adopt the regular and public hearing minutes from October 21st and the special council meeting minutes of October 30th as presented or amended. Council Walsh. As presented, seconded. Deputy Mayor Byrd. Any questions? All in favor? Motion's carried. Any business rising from the minutes? No. Moving on to consent agenda, we have correspondence items C1 through C10, staff reports R1 through R3, and minutes of the Library Board and Cultural and Heritage Committee. Do we have somebody to approve as circulated and or amended? Councillor Walsh. Circulated with comment. Circulated with comment, seconder. Deputy Mayor Byrd with comment. Councillor Walsh.
Yeah, actually, at least C2, we're going to potentially pull and discuss some general business in terms of delegations of the woman.
Yes.
That's right, okay. The other was just around C7 and the amendment to the Development Charges Act. This is just more for information for all of us, because I reached out to Ed, who thankfully answered all my questions. So the way it is now is we will not receive DC charges until basically an occupancy permit is issued. But so that occupancy permit is issued to the developer, who in turn then would hand it over to the resident. So, because my concern was, what's the motivation of the developer to get done to get, so we get our money and they get their occupancy permit, but they would need it because they would need that then to provide to the owner of a house, which would then start mortgage payments on that. So it does work for our favor. Just Jordan, you said, just cash flow is going to move further down the chain than normally would be up front.
Right.
But I just wanted to show.
Okay.
How are you?
And Deputy Mayor Byrd.
C2, again, I just mentioned that and we're discussing that in general business. Same thing, but DC charges, so I don't need to do that. So R2, for Jordan, the ice storm program funding, can you just remind me, when are you expecting, I don't even see George, there he is. When are you expecting that to come through, or confirmation, or yes, we have it, yes, you will be getting the money? And just as a reminder, I do not believe that that is going into the 2026 budget because those are expenses already incurred. So if you can just clarify that.
Through you, Mayor. So assuming everything's deemed eligible and we're successful, we're expecting it late spring, I think the transfer
Okay,
payment agreements from the province. There's been nothing to say that we won't qualify for it. They waive the initial 3% tax levy requirement. So I'm assuming that, knock on wood, all should be met from that standpoint. $50,000 of that is for our future spending in 2026. If we move forward with the brush grinding, two of the sites. So knock on wood, if everything moves quickly, hopefully late spring, we'll have something signed and the money will be transferred. Sure.
and one more.
Yeah.
You, R3, thank you for the report, Seamus. Obviously, when I saw the numbers for summer camp, I know you said they were down a bit, but the numbers look decent enough that it looks like, you know, there certainly is a need in the community. And, if the Boys and Girls Club, is not a goal for next year for a variety of reasons, are we able to look at options for another organization coming in as a third party?
So through your Mary, yes, so hopefully in the next week or so, staff will be reaching out to Boys and Girls Club about setting up a 2025 recap meeting. And at that point, I think it's only fair to them and actually give them by this date, if you can please let us know if you're returning or not. And in the meantime, we can look into other options so that if they tell us, no, we're not losing another month or two before we can fill it, we're, hey, unfortunately, they're not coming back. Great, we already have this other group that will fill that spot. So yes, we'll be working on that. And if they don't return, we're gonna look at doing something. So there is a.
Because I think that's been an issue in the past for the communication with them. They just haven't returned the calls or emails and you're kind of left hanging. So I like the idea that there's a hard date. Are you coming back or not? So you have enough time to find another option. So thank you. That's it.
That's it. All in favor? All right, moving along to delegations and presentation. First up, we have a delegation from Pragmates Management, gentlemen, or I guess Tom, you have the floor, you're by yourself.
Thanks. I'm gonna sit so I'm not putting my back to your staff.
That's
felt
fine.
A little strange to stand there and not face them at all. Thank you very much for the invitation, for allowing me to be here. So Terry wasn't able to make it today. Terry Reese from the Ontario Pragmates Action Program. And then I believe some of you heard his presentation when you were at County Council on October 15th. So regrets from Terry, but I'll be able to speak about the provincial Pragmates Management Program that's being authored. That Terry is representing, as well as our regional delivery of that program in the Kawarthas. So next slide, please. So Pragmates, is there anybody here who's never heard of this thing at all? Okay, so people say that it's the province's worst invasive plant. There's all sorts of economic impacts that come with this plant that came over from Eurasia and is filling up our ditches and our waterways. It's focused mostly in sort of wetter areas, but it has an impact to roadsides and drainage ditches and infrastructure around water. Next slide, please. There's lots of folks who have cottages that this has completely blocked their view as it's come in. Lots of boat ramps and sort of water recreation facilities that have sort of been wrecked by this plant and other areas. So there's lots of social impacts that come along with this. Next slide, please. And where Kawartha Land Trust and conservation organizations come at this from is the environmental impacts. So places where this is taken over entirely, like in Long Point in southwestern Ontario or in Quebec, these wetlands that support nature have seen a dramatic decrease in the amount of diversity in these spaces. So there's both economic, environmental, and social impacts to letting this plant sort of go wild. Next slide, please. Fortunately, the government of Ontario saw to do something about this in 2024 And so they've invested an $11 million fund to manage Phragmites across the province. And that's a 3-year fund. I know Terry is really keen to see a lot of good results coming from this, and he hopes to work with the province to extend the timeline where this money is available. Next slide, please. And if I were Terry, I would tell you and maybe share a story about all the great other municipalities and partnerships with conservation organizations that are doing work to address this plant in their jurisdiction through this fund. So he's got all these numbers here of different communities and groups that are collaborating and taking this coordinated approach to managing this invasive plant before it gets too much worse. Next slide. And I'm really keen to focus on this element today, which is that the province is delivering their funding through this mechanism called Phragmites management areas, which I am convening a Phragmites management area for this region. So they've said we're going to give priority to the funding and other types of support to groups and regions that come together and take a coordinated approach so that we can be effective and avoid duplication and actually go about taking control of this plant at a scale. So they've set up this structure, Phragmites management areas, and I'm sure it says on the slide how many there are going somewhere. There are many going already, right? Terry would tell you how many. But anyway, now I'm convening the one in the Kawarthas. So next slide, please. So we started our Phragmites management area for the Kawarthas just this year. So we've had 2 meetings with 15 land managers. We're really focusing right now on land managers who control budgets and who control spaces where they can undertake control. So a lot of groups are working with volunteer committees and naturalist groups and these kinds of things. I'm looking at that more as a phase 2. Right now, we're working with roads departments and land managers primarily, because we want to get to work and start taking control of some of these plans. So our scope is Peterborough County and City of Kawartha Lakes. So we'll undertake work in either of those counties. And while I was here wearing my Kawartha Land Trust hat that I took off, and I am here from Kawartha Land Trust, whose primary purpose is to create nature reserves. I'm not here necessarily representing our interests. I'm here representing the idea of bringing everybody together to control this and get everybody resources to control this plant. Next slide. So the goal of our working group is to take action, to access funding to increase control of Phragmites, or it gets too much worse, to share the resources and data that we have about the locations of these plants so that we can prioritize control and avoid duplication and stepping on each other's toes, and essentially to get more people, more money, and more capacity to take action against this plant. So we're hoping to just make it easy, because we know a lot of folks, I talked to them, they said, you know what, this has always been something on my radar at the Parks Department or at the Roads Department. We know this is happening, but it's always one of those important but non-urgent things. It's always off the side of somebody's desk. So my goal with this convening is to make it easy for people to take action. Next slide, please. So in 2026, we've already identified a number of roadside populations that will be hiring contractors to control. We also have identified 7 land managers who operate in Peterborough County and City of Kawartha Lakes that would like money for contractors to take control of this plant on their lands. And we've made a plan to monitor for presence of absence on public and conservation lands where we don't know if there's plants there yet. And the reason that we're bundling all of these actions up into a 2026 action plan is to submit for between $50,000 and $100,000 of funding from the Ontario Phragmites Action Program in November or end of this month, with the final application due in January. So we're putting all these actions together with all these different organizations and partners and applying for funding together. Next slide. So I wanted to come to Asphodel-Norwood staff and council with a very tangible and clear opportunity to participate collectively in action on Phragmites. And so that's what I want to share with you today. I hope you'll see that I feel like I'm selling it here like a bit like a used car salesman. You'll get great value for money, and it'll be easy and targeted, and there's no long-term commitment for you. All right, so next slide, please. I'm hoping that working with your staff, you'll have an interest in taking action on your roads and in your parklands, essentially. So what can we do in roads in 2026? Next slide. Well, we're in really great shape because through this year's work, we'll actually have an inventory of all of the roads in Peterborough County and City of Port Lakes, township roads and county roads, to see where is Phragmites across this entire landscape. So I'm going to drove around and identified it all. From there, we'll be able to say, well, these are the places where we can have the most effective control because there's something important nearby, a really important wetland or important piece of infrastructure. Next slide. We're whittling that down to Asphodel-Norwood. How much roadside Phragmites do we have? Well, there are 87 locations and 2,400 square meters. It's actually a very small amount compared to other townships. So we're in a good position here to take action on our roadside control, if that's of interest. So working with the county operations staff, that would be a mere $7,000 of contracting money estimated to control all of those locations. And in some instances, we actually want to prioritize rather than try to control everything just for efficacy's sake. So that's opportunity number one, I suppose, is to undertake roadside control of this scale. Next slide, please. And then the second opportunity would be to work on parks and public lands within the region. So next slide. I've worked with a lot of conservation land managers who actually have a pretty good sense of where the Phragmites is on their land, and a few parks staff at different townships who have just said, you know what, there's that patch that I know is by that beach, and I've always wanted to do something about it. But I've never talked to Asphodel-Norwood staff. If you have knowledge of Phragmites in your region on your public lands, then we could, so another tangible opportunity for collaboration would be to let me know about those so we can seek to control them in the future. And the second one would be, we'll be hiring a Phragmites management or monitoring technician next year as a collective for this group. And so we'll have some resources that we could send out to all of your public areas like boat launches, beaches, parks that have wetlands in them. And then we'd be able to collect presence absence data on your behalf as part of this grant. So you have a very clear picture of how you might be able to act in the future. Next slide, please. So again, wanting to make this as tangible as possible and to show that we can get started here for a very small amount of money, and that we'll be applying to this grant with different organizations together. And so we have the chance here that if you would like to take action on Phragmites, that we'll be able to sort of double your contribution this year because this grant is available. So these are just sort of ballpark figures for what we might be able to do together, and to show that we'll be able to basically cover half the cost of managing some sites, managing some roadsides, and getting a clear picture of what's in your parks if you'd like to participate. So the long story short is, would you like to become a member of the project for the Phragmites management area for the Kawarthas and apply together to some funding to undertake some action in Phragmites in 2026? So I'll need to know which way the wind is blowing by the end of this month. If you think this is something that you have absolutely no interest in whatsoever, then I'd like to know. But if you think there might be something here to work with staff and come up with a budget, I'd like to know that by the end of the month so that we can get an application in for January. Okay, that's probably a lot. I hope the first question is what's Phragmites again? Because I would have gone way too far. So anyway, if there are any questions,
Thank you, Tom, for that presentation. I do know that there is some spots in Asphodel-Norwood Township, but I know that there is a lot too on private property, and which is a different thing. Maybe they will be able to apply for some of these grants in the future. I don't know. I do know some people think it's very ornamental I know in Peterborough that I can go to a person's backyard and it's 8, 10 feet high in his backyard. And I'm going, what are you doing? Do you know what that stuff is? It's the greatest grass. It's great
Yeah.
coverage. Oh, yes. But it spreads. And we don't need that. Council, you have questions? Deputy Mayor Bird?
Thank you, through you, Mayor. Thank you, again for the presentation today here. So just a couple of questions. So the mayor touched on it a little bit. Landowners, is there an opportunity at some point, maybe not this round, for landowners to get involved, and what does that look like? And then, do you think that this grant will be multi-year, like not just this year? Can you see that growing and expanding for another year? And then that's 2 questions for you, and then I better stop there. I just got another one for our staff, and I'll just leave it with you for now.
Yeah, sure. So I think the important thing here is to get the ball rolling on collective action so that we can show that involving private landowners in the future is possible and effective. So public land managers, I think they have a lot easier of an opportunity. It's one person rather than, working with hundreds of people. So if we can show that there's action on public land or on roadsides in the region, then we'll be able to make a stronger case for the next step, which is that effort to reach out to private landowners and involve them. So that's certainly on my radar and on the radar of the group, because there's no sense in controlling it in one place but not working in another. But to me, it's a step approach. Working with the public lands first is the easier step to show that there's momentum so that we can take that next step with private landowners later. And then to the second one, I think I know Terry and their team at the province is looking to extend this and do another at least 3-year program from the province. But just like everything from the province, we don't have a crystal ball, but they're showing a lot of good success, and the more uptake there is, I think the more they'll be able to show that there is a appetite for the program.
Councilor Walsh?
Yeah, through you, Mayor. Again, thank you, Karen, for the presentation. It was interesting to read through. I actually have one question for you, one for staff. Is it spray once and done, or is it spray this time and we have to do it again next year and the next year, or is it kind of, if the bromeliads are in a contained area, is it one spray, do it?
Thank you for your Mayor. It depends. I have several years of experience dealing with this, and we have had some success with single application. When the weather lines up with the spraying period and the size of the population is such that I guess the strength of the population is such that it can be controlled through one application, it is possible. But yes, it is typically a multi-year process.
Okay.
And yeah, it's tricky to know that we can do this for multiple years, given that the funding is for only one. But if we get started now, we'll be able to continue, I think.
And my second question is directed more to staff, sort of put them on the spot, but this would be more probably to Jeff and Seamus in terms of roads. Have you noticed any, and do we, and you said we certainly have had some, and same with you, Seamus, have we had any notifications visible around any of our parks, boat launch areas that it is a concern?
I'll jump in first. Through your Mayor, I have noticed on our roadsides, North Portha, very passionate out there, right, there's a lot more very nice out there. Than here, we do have some on our roadsides, but I think council's dabbled on it a little bit. I think the epicenter, some private properties, I know massive patches. Not far from the Switch Village where, I think it's probably feeding that roadside with birds or, whatever it carries the seeds. I think, and correct me if I'm wrong, I think that the best thing is excavation. If they get right out as opposed to spraying. I think when you get into spraying, you have to be very careful. You have to make sure you're consulting Treaty 20 and First Nations. It's very, the spray is kind of a great. So, like I said, I think I was always told that excavation was kind of the key, but again, for us, just fence to fence for what I look after, but there is some big ups in it. The private lands, that's for sure. Through your Mayor, we're not aware of any. We did have a resident inquire about potentially someone Lions Park last year. County came in, they did decorative grass and not phragmites. So obviously now from this presentation is when we're doing our inspections, we'll be looking for anything out of the ordinary and be reaching out so that we can't get ahead of stuff if we do have any in our works.
I think just for, just through there, I think, the patch that comes to mind is, center line between the 8th and 7th at the Aspen's. I think there's a patch right there if you want to have a look at what it looks like at the roadside. If there's a patch right there, I was under the same assumption we go over, I thought it was a week for grass, because there's some below from. That was 15 years ago.
Why isn't this thing uglier? It'd be easier to get people to.
Thank you.
Any other questions? All right, council, can I have a motion to receive this report for now? Councillor Walsh, Councillor Hodge-Graves. Thank you. We'll be back to you, Tom.
Great, thank you.
Pardon me? All in favor of that motion? Motion's carried. Next, we have Joanne Parker and John Hickey from Baker Tilly here to present the 2024 consolidated financial statement and financial full audit. You have the
If
floor.
I sit here too, I
Third.
really like
Third.
the idea of not standing to. Like I probably have. Lint on my butt, I really need to look at it. Thank you very much for having me here. I have John Hickey with me as well. He's the manager on the audit, and we'll be walking through the statements. In your packages, you had the letter to council as well as the financial statements. This is the summary of those two documents, but happy at the end to address any questions that I didn't talk about as we went through. We start with the independent auditor's report. So that's really our report to you, and that's really what you're wanting at the end of the day is the auditor's report. And you'll find it a few pages into the statements. It's 3 pages long, but this is the most important paragraph, the second paragraph. And it's consolidated financial statements present fairly in all material respects the financial position of the township at December 31st, 2024. So that's a clean auditor's opinion. It reminds you that the financial statements are consolidated. They include the library and the cemetery as well. And they are in accordance with public sector accounting standards, which you as a municipality have to follow. We're required to let council know what we do as part of our audit. So, I won't go through it all, it would take too long, and Jordan doesn't want to probably relive it either, but we review council minutes, the open and the closed sessions to make sure that anything related financially is reflected appropriately in your financial statements. We do lots of random sampling. We look at management's estimates to make sure they're reasonable. We do analytical review too when we can, depending, for example, your property taxation is a good one there where we can do kind of a proof in total. This is your total assessment. This is the rates. This is the revenue that should be reported and, you know, make sure it looks reasonable. So that's a good example of kind of some of the work we do. It's not all that easy. And then we look at your various systems, the money coming in, the money coming out. And if we have recommendations on the internal controls that you have in place, then we would bring them forward. We have the audit recommendation that we bring forward to Jordan during the audit. If there was anything major, it would come to council, but there wasn't any this year. It was just really operational. The audit is complete pending council's approval of the financial statements, and once that happens, we ask management to sign a representation letter, and still outstanding actually too is legal letters. So we send letters to your lawyers to make sure that if there's anything significant outstanding that should be reflected in your financial statements, it is. A lot of times any cases you have or anything would be covered by insurance, but it's really just to make sure that there isn't anything else. We didn't have any significant difficulties encountered during the audit, no disagreements with management. Really want to thank the team here for all their help and their cooperation. We didn't have any changes to how we audited. There was a slight delay, hiccups with just the transfer of how the cemetery is now being recorded in-house. So that's why we thought we would be here earlier than we were, and that was why. So I project next year will be a little different there too. And we do note here, there was a new revenue standard, accounting standard this year, and that had to do with revenue, specifically building permits. So in the past, when a building permit was purchased, it was all reported into revenue. And that was the appropriate treatment. Now the standards have changed now. So now the term is performance obligations. So when you get a building permit now, you have to have so many inspections. So now that revenue is now prorated based on the number of inspections that is outstanding. So now it kind of gets deferred until all those are met. So that was required as of January 1st, 2023. So there was some work to go back look at what was outstanding and then to make the appropriate as it turns out, it wasn't a huge restatement at the end of the day, but there was one. And speaking of restatement, I should note that there was a restatement to the 2023 numbers too, and that had to do with gravel pits and the asset retirement obligations. When I was here last year presenting the statements, there was a new accounting policy then too, to do with asset retirement obligations and looking at how much it's going to cost to retire certain assets. Well, the one thing that was missed was the gravel pit. So that was an estimate about $470,000 liability that wasn't recorded. It is now on your financial statements. But if you do look at your statements and you see that note for restatement, that's what that has to do with.
Thank you
Nothing that
for
you have to deal with now, but yeah. Then we get into the numbers. So we start just taking the kind of more smaller sections of your financial statement, starting with financial assets, so the assets that are either cash or can more easily converted into cash. Starting with the cash and temporary investments, you'll notice that stayed pretty consistent from 2023 to 2024. But I want to note though, which looks positive, but then when we look down at the trade and other receivables at the end of 2023, you had a significant amount of receivables outstanding. With funding, right? You had your ISIP funding for the water tower was the big one there. So you received that money, but then your cash has stayed the same. So it's, all in all, you are kind of down in your cash position. And looking at your total assets, you went from almost 6.2 million to 4.9 million. And I'm only pointing that out because it's going to come back later in my presentation, but you do have short-term investments. Those are the library's GI or the cemetery's GIC. So $50,000. It's remained consistent over all the years I've been involved here. Your trade and other receivables, as I mentioned, $1.6 million. Things you still have receivable. You have your ISIP funding for the water tower and some money for the community center as well, still outstanding at the end of December, and some HST, as well as some other provincial funding for storm funding, as was discussed earlier. And then other normal receivables, water and sewer and arena and that kind of thing. Your taxes receivable has gone up to 661,000 from 555,000, but the province looks at a ratio of how much your receivables are compared to your total billing in a year, or your total assessment bill. And you this year are 8.48%. Compared to 7.68%. The provincial guideline though is 10%. So it's still something to watch for sure, but you aren't, you're still within the provincial guideline, so that's good. And then your assets held for resale, half of that is regarding the cemetery and the niches of in the columbarium, and then the other half is inventory at the community center. The following slide is your financial liabilities. Your first one is the accounts payable and accrued liabilities, $2.6 million. That's going to go up and down due to timing. It's very similar year to year. One thing to note though is about 941,000 of that is subdivider deposits. So money that's been given to you to hold on to, I shouldn't say to hold on to, but to have on hand for certain expenses. So that's a good portion of that $2.7 million. Your deferred revenue obligatory reserve fund, so that's the amounts you have on hand in your bank account for Canada Community Building Fund, your development charges, and Parkland Fund. So you have that money, you haven't spent it. That's not the amount spent, that is the amount still to be used in future periods. So that you'll be able to use when you start looking at the 2026 budget. Your deferred revenue other, that's other grants that you've received or other money you've received that hasn't been spent. And of that 157,000, 98,000 of that is OCIF and 31,000 is building permits. So again, coming back to that new accounting standard. Your long-term debt, no change there, just decreasing with your principal payments. That's your OSIPA, the wastewater treatment plant loan that you've had for a number of years now. And then the last one is your asset retirement obligation. So that's the estimate of the liability for the retirement of those. So there's landfill is $1.5 million of that amount. Your gravel pit is the 470,000 that was restated. And then asbestos at certain buildings, just the cost to remove that asbestos. There's no requirement for those. This is just an estimate to have on your financial statements so that you know how much it will cost. The following slide is your trend in your financial assets. And this is why I brought up the, just looking at the total of your total assets. It has dropped Your net financial assets are the two slides, the net of those, the total financial assets minus the liability. So because of that drop in your assets, then you see the drop, corresponding drop on this page as well. And then your non-financial assets, the assets you're using, really, the biggest one being tangible capital assets that you're using to provide service to your ratepayers, $42.45 million. An increase there, that's the net book value of your capital assets. So the historical cost minus the accumulated amortization of the assets. So this year you had purchases of 2.6 million, which we'll see on the next page. And then the amortization was only 1.7, or the expensing of those assets over the useful life. So that's why you see the increase there. So significant increase from 2020 to 2024, definitely there. And as I mentioned, 2.655 million in additions, broken down into the various categories, 46% in water and sewer. In there was the force main upgrades, water tower, the fifth well. Other significant additions this year in the building was a medical center and machinery and equipment. Just to remind you what happened in 2024, the medical center equipment, the condenser chiller at the community center. And then as well in there was lots of vehicles, the pumper, the fire chief's truck, and the building department truck was in there as well. And then it's good to look at a snapshot of the amount of your additions compared to your amortization. So you want to make sure that on average that you're replacing your assets at a greater rate than the amortization. The amortization is done on the historical cost of the asset. So if you're only kind of keeping pace with that, then you quickly kind of slide into that infrastructure deficit that used to be the big word a few years ago. So you can see when you look at that snapshot, besides 2020, you're doing way more than that. So that's a good indication that you're at a good place with your capital. When we look at the accumulated surplus, so when you look at your financial statements, you're going to see the $40.3 million in accumulated surplus. The biggest portion of that is the amount you've already invested in capital assets. So of the 40.3 million, 37.8 you've already invested in capital assets, and that's the net book value of the capital assets, less the debt associated with those assets, the asset retirement obligations, and then unfunded capital. So you do have $1.2 million in unfunded capital. Part of the 819 of that is water, but then you do have 375,000 for the medical center. So that's funds that you're going to have to look at in the future on how that's going to be funded. And then as well as then looking at the township, and we've had a lot of discussions already with the treasurer, and we'll continue those conversations. But I'm sure as you looked at this package, you all saw the $923,000 accumulated deficit. So the in-year deficit is the change between those two numbers. 231,000, but it is still an accumulated deficit of 923,000. So again, that's something you're going to have to look at when you're starting to budget. Whether there's reserves, you do have, as you see at the bottom there, $3.3 million in reserves, and when you take out the 500,000 that are related to water and sewer, those are available to you. We were looking, because of the change in staff this year between who did the budget for 2025 and then the current staff, there were some reserve transfers that were contemplated in the budget that weren't done, and that could be a case of covering past deficits. So that's something that can still be done. It's you've got the reserves there, but then I get often asked, are these enough reserves? And then you also want to kind of couple that with looking at the asset management plan, to see what you need to do over the next couple of years and making sure that you have the funds on hand, or then, looking into that as well. So a lot to think about for sure, and happy to we'll continue the conversations, of course, with your treasurer as you get through that. But that is the one thing, probably, if anything's coming out of the audit, definitely to take a look at. When we did look at, we did some analysis on kind of where the budget came from. Overall, it was about 160,000. You're about 85,000 under in revenue and about the same in expenses. So it was kind of this and that, right? And when we look through the revenue and expenses, you'll see, but there was nothing kind of significant, but I know there are some projects that just weren't done, that kind of thing. So kind of continuous conversation I know you're into the 2026 budget. This page, it's a lot of numbers on this page, but what the purpose of this is, when you look at your financial statements, especially when you look in the budget column, it's gonna look like you budgeted for a $343,000 deficit. That's a PSAB number. So what the bottom part of that page where it says reconciliation, those are the items that we present differently on your financial statements than you do your budget. You do your budget appropriate. You need to budget for, how much you're gonna raise in taxes, whether it be for capital or operating. But when we do the financial statements, we have to pull out the capital and add in amortization. So those are the items, and the same with your reserves. The financial statements are consolidated, so they include your reserves and your balances. Whereas when you're budgeting and you're bringing money into reserves, that's appropriately, you're treating it as a revenue. So what the bottom of that is doing is kind of showing the kind of puts and takes, if you will, to get down to that operating surplus. So you can see that zero, that is what you budgeted for. We know council budgeted for a zero surplus, zero deficit. But in actuality, at the end of 2024, you had the $231,000 deficit in year, and in 2023, the $368,000. One thing you will see on this slide too, under the reconciliation, is the third line down is the purchase of tangible capital assets. So the budget was 2.69 and the actual was 2.65. So that's the only place on the statements, and there is a corresponding note like this on your statements that you can actually see what your budget was for capital and what you actually spent. So you're very close there. The following slide looks at the comparison of revenue and expenses. You can see in 2021 to 2023, lots of capital going on. You had a lot of capital grants, which is why your revenue is so much higher, because you recognize capital grants as you get them, but then of course, you're not expensing them until to match with the amortization. So whereas 2024 was more of a typical year, not as much capital, so therefore closer in line with each other. And then we look at the total revenue. So your total budget was 8.4 million. The actual was 8.34 million, of which 52.4% of your revenue is coming from your property taxation. It is slightly over budget, and that's just because of your net supplementaries being higher than, or your supplementaries being higher than your write-offs, essentially. Your user charges, 2.3 million, 27.7% of your revenue. There was a significant amounts in your budget. I was kind of curious as to why your budget was so much higher. It was all to do with hookups in sewer and water. So those were a lot higher than the actual came out to be. So that's why. So that wouldn't actually fall or attribute to your operating deficit, because that's all in water and sewer anyway. Your federal money, 202,000 of that is for the water tower, the 226,000. Your provincial funding, of course, the big drops in when you look at the feds and the provincial funding from 2023 and 2024. That's because of the water tower projects and the large projects that you had in 2023 that were funded by OCIF. There was some roads things there too. But 60% of your provincial funding is your base funding, the OMPF funding. And then there was some other funding for roads projects in the water tower as well. Other significant amounts on there, your investment income, of course, was lower than budgeted. And that's likely because of, I don't know how your budget was done, but I'm going to say the rates went down. So that would make sense that your budget went, you were lower than budget there. And then, of course, you're seeing a decrease there in your donations. In the past, you've had significant donations for the medical center, and that, you still did have 36,500 in 2024, but a significant decrease from 2023 there as well. And then the development charges earned and the Canada Community Building Fund earned, that was the amount that was actually spent during the year. We talked about that, the amounts you have on hand already, but that's the amount you received and then spent. So that gives you the $8.3 million in total revenue. And then expenses were required under public sector accounting standards to show expenses two ways. This is the first way, more by department. So you can see some increases there over budget in general government. I tried to kind of dissect a little bit as to where there was nothing significant. There was some contingencies and that kind of thing, and different consultants, but there was nothing that really I could pinpoint as to the increase. It was kind of, a little bit here, a little bit there kind of thing. Protection services, there was items in the building department budget that didn't come to fruition. So that's why we see the decrease there. Transportation has been very consistent, year over year when you look at 2023, 2024, and budget there. And environmental services too, a lot of just a little variances, there was nothing significant there either. So at the end of the day, it was $8.7 million in budget and the actual was 8.9 million. Part of that will be amortization and we'll see that on the slide, next slide. So this is the other way we show expenses. The totals are all the same as they were on the previous slide, but more by the type of expense. So you can see salaries there are 38.5% of your total expenses in 2024. And slightly over budget, but nothing significant there. Again, there's not a lot of changes there. The rents and financial is the biggest swing. It's still not, $48,000, and that had to do with the asset retirement obligations. So that's really an accounting entry. And that is the end of my presentation, but happy to address any questions.
Thank you, Joanne. Council, questions? Deputy Member?
Thank you very much for the presentation. So you answered two of my questions that I had written down right off the start, just the date of the audit. So glad to hear that hopefully it will be moved up and that's good to know just from the standpoint of the cemeteries and bringing that on board. And then, I guess maybe this question is more for Jordan. The taxes receivable at 8.48%. So that was at the end of 2024. Has a good portion of that receivable been paid at this point? And how's it looking for 2025?
I'll have to.
Oh, that's fine.
Through you, Mayor. I'll have to.
Yeah, no, just curious as to where we're sitting, because if it keeps climbing up. So if we do see, that climbing up, what are some of the things that as staff, what are some of the procedures to reel that in a little bit?
Yeah, through you, Mayor. The nice thing with your taxes receivable, when we audit and we look at receivables, the big question is, are they receivable? Are they collectible? And we have to value that. The nice thing is usually they are in taxes receivable, because unless they're environmental property or something that you don't think is going to sell, one way or another, you're gonna get your money, right? So whether it be for tax sale, I know I have a lot of municipalities that, sometimes they just kind of up their amount of their notices going out to the ratepayers and that will sometimes just turn it around. I have some that call. And then, or the tax sales, you can do tax sales a lot quicker than you used to be able to now. So then that's the ultimate is if you're not getting the collectability, then you're able to do that.
Thank you. Any other questions, comments? Councilor Walsh?
Yeah, through you, Mayor. Again, thank you very much for the presentation. I like at the end, you talked about really focusing and looking at expenses and revenue around right sizing them, because I think that's been a challenge that we've had for the last couple of years, just with some turnover, is just trying to get revenues right size, that we're not being overly optimistic, because that just ends up being an issue later. So I appreciate your focus helping us on that. And I think that I've seen budget this year, we're greatly moving and improving in that direction, trying to be as realistic as possible and not over projecting revenue. That just ends up being a problem later down the road. So I appreciate your help on that, as well as to the staff focusing on that as well.
Any other questions or comments? Okay, council, I'll state the recommended motion that the council of the Township of Asphodel-Norwood approves the 2024 consolidated financial statement for the Township of Asphodel-Norwood as presented, and further that council authorizes myself as mayor and the treasurer to sign the management report for the year ended December 31st, 2024. Can I have a mover? Councillor Hodge-Greaves. Seconder, Councillor Walsh. Any further comments? All in favor? Motion's carried. Thank you, Joanne.
Thank you.
Moving along to staff reports, I'll ask the manager of Public Works and Environment Services to proceed with R4.
Thanks, Mayor and Council. Yeah, my apologies first. This one was really fast tracked to make the agenda for today, but it was really good news. We had a call a couple hours before the reports were due for the agenda from Certain Materials, one of the managers, offering up a year's extension for our depot services. As you're aware, we had the report go through that they were taking our bins and deeming them that we didn't need them. So it was good news. The missing link for this report was, of course, the financial impact. I didn't have the quotes to get the report in time. I did receive the quotes for the service a couple of days after, and I was a bit surprised. It was $19,000 to have, like they laid out in the report, 2 bins isolated out of our 8 to have for the non-eligible sources in the ICI materials. So what Circular Materials provided was the 3 options. Option 1 was ceased acceptance of non-eligible sources in ICI materials, which we would just continue status quo. The 8 bins will be covered by Circular Materials, and we would regain that revenue from materials collected like we have been doing all along since the program began. Option 2, which I said I portrayed in the recommendation as kind of a favorite of mine at the time, was I think it's just it's a stepping stone to get everybody to the next step. I think we're all aware communication has been a little non-existent throughout the process. The education materials became available last week. They're about a month behind pace of where we were supposed to be, which I think even October is a little tight of a timeline for the end of the year for this rollover. So option 2 in my eyes was just kind of seen as a nicer transition point to help the businesses along and move forward. So I kind of laid it in the report. Out of our 8 bins, 2 bins would be for the ICI materials. The rest of the bins will be covered by Circular Materials. Option 3, I didn't give a lot of thought to. Just right off the bat, it raised some flags for me. I think just because of the unknown, was a blended process where all the materials hit the bins with a threshold weight of a certain tonnage that Certain Materials sets. And when that threshold is hit, they stop paying, and then it rolls over and we start paying. So just with so many unknowns of the tonnage with the materials, I just tried to steer away from that one a little bit with the unknown. It would be a sick feeling if May we hit the tonnage and we had the rest of the year. So anyways, I just like I said, kind of got the report quick so we could have a discussion about it today and potentially move forward. So I'm happy to answer any questions that I can.
Council? We still, I've been starting here. Have you a question?
Well, I was just, yeah, if you don't mind.
Councilor Alfred, go ahead.
So it's $19,000 for 2 bins for the year, the non-eligible sources. Separating it out, but the 4 other bins, and this is for recyclables, 4 other bins would be residential, and Circular Materials would continue to empty those.
Yeah, correct. Through you, Mayor. That was the quote if the bins were collected every week. Again, there is a lot of unknown there. I don't know if we would need the bins collected every week. So theoretically, if we could do every other week, that would cut that budget in half. Whereas maybe we're not 19,000, maybe it's 9,500. I honestly don't think it would be, with our hours that we operate of a couple days a week, basically. I don't think we would fill 2 of those bins a week. But the flip side of that is they're not taking eligible sources out of the curb anymore, so we don't know, we might get inundated with that. And I think I might have included in the report, another option if we were gonna go that route would be, we did talk about a tipping fee for the businesses if they wanted to make use of that service and maybe help recover some of those costs that we would be putting out if option 2 was the step. So, and again, this is only for a year, so we're gonna be back in the same boat, but I just think it helps us educate everybody. Because the writing's on the wall, we're going to lose our bids, so it's but we've got another year to help with the education process for that, so
And so to follow, in terms of the stopping the collection at the end of this year, how's it gonna work on the main street in Norwood with the mixed use properties? Where was the discussion? Are they stopping collecting? Because some of those units are residential, but So what was the out, I can't remember what that is going to look like. They're just gonna stop getting the hardware store, but they're gonna magically know which ones are the residential ones?
Through the mayor, it's my understanding the businesses that enter into their own agreement with the collection contractor, whether it be M-Terra or there's 360 in the area as well. And it's my understanding it's potentially a different colored bin for the businesses, and then the blue boxes will remain the same. So again, the blue boxes should be a pretty seamless transition. It's the businesses that are gonna feel the impact, but that was my understanding of how they were gonna isolate.
Councillor Ward, you had a question?
Yes, thank you through you, Mayor. Can you hear me okay?
Fine.
Okay, Jeff, I was just wondering, you said something about the tipping fee. What do you propose that might look like if there was a user pay and in option 2? Would that maybe balance out, cost to the township? Thank you.
Through you, Mayor, I started to dabble with that, but that was mostly focused on the residential because we were losing our bins, and when this popped up, it kind of changes the focus a little bit, so. If that's if that's an option, I'd be more than happy to put some more work into that and come back with something.
Thank you for that. Yeah, I think that, if there's going to be a cost incurred, that it needs to be, a neutral position for finances if possible, like especially when it's unknown. Anyways, thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you through you, Mayor. Yeah, that's actually what I had written down was something with user paid use. As you state, this is a stepping stone. So even if it was just a small amount, and then maybe that will get people used to using it and paying a little bit, because we will get hit with the full amount here shortly. So I don't know what that would look like, but even you're gonna have to balance out the cost of taking in whatever the money is versus the staff time to do it too. So I don't know how that's going to look, and I'm just not sure where you find that balance.
No, and through you, Mayor, I think one of the biggest challenges is right now, there's no businesses using the site. We have one business basically that's bringing recyclables. So that's,
That's a big one.
it's so like it's so hard to gauge. Even if we had a dozen businesses that were using, we kind of gauge some of it right now, just with our tracking. It's a campsite that uses it. So.
And just to follow up on that, I know when businesses first got their letters to say, it's not getting picked up, you're responsible for it. And some businesses went out, and it's very expensive to have it picked up at their place of business. So probably paying for a little bit at the transfer station is going to be a lot better on the wallet than having a private company come in and pick it up. So I don't think it hurts to look at a user pay under option 2. That's my comment.
Oh, further to that comment, Councillor, or Deputy Mayor, for some of the businesses that have already found out prices, you might be able to contact them. Possibly come to some kind of agreement that we can start off small. And hate to say it, but it will be cost recovery at the end, but first year shouldn't be. Councillor Wolf.
Through you, and actually Jeff, you already answered my questions. My question was, how many businesses that are non-eligible are actually using it right now? You're saying based on your tracking, it's one.
Yep.
I guess the question these kind of builds on Mr. questions is, some of those businesses that have maybe looked at other alternatives are finding that they're very expensive and maybe willing and open to look at an alternative plus. But I'm aligned that it has to be revenue neutral for us, but at least it would be a local option for them to be able to take recyclables to the transfer station on a user pay basis.
Yeah, and I have talked to a couple of businesses, and you won't like the sound of this, but more or less the companies that are gonna pick it up, it's all going to the dump anyway, it's not going to be, so. Any further comments or questions? Thank you, Jeff. Council? Do you want to think of options, or do you like our manager's option two, go ahead.
Through your mayor, I like the option two, and I think the only piece that I would look if we would entertain adding is. I don't know what that number is, to put some type of tipping fee. Yes, there's probably businesses that have made arrangements, there's some that may not, and communication has been a disaster with this. It's a way that we're kind of helping our residents for another year with lots of education during the year. But, you know, knowing at the end of 2026, this will be gone. This is a one-time thing. But I think that provides an option to our local business to try to help support them. But I think it also has to be in with it to be Councillor Warren mentioned as well, is that it has to be revenue neutral for us. So best budget that we can do.
All right, council, I'll read the recommended motion then, that the council of the township of Asphodel-Norwood accepts this report. Further, the council directs staff to enter into a one-year extension offered by Circular Materials based on option two as outlined in this report. And further,
That we would look at adding a tipping fee under option two.
okay,
Do we need the number right now, or can we leave that? That's kind of putting you on the spot today, say, give me a number.
Yeah.
We want a little bit of time to knowing that directionally, that's where we want to go, then figure out what that tipping fee amount is going to be.
Yeah, through you, Mayor, I think, let me return to the next council meeting, because we're running out of time here, and, I'll look at kind of what the proposal was, and maybe follow up with what they're paying curbside, and again, we'll try to collaborate on that. I know, right? Come up with
With a whole bunch of unknowns. Well
a
done.
whole bunch of unknowns.
So, sorry.
Go ahead.
At this time, are we receiving for information and directing staff to come back with user fees, or just receive for information with that understanding he's coming back? Just to,
that he's coming back with that information, I would take it.
Probably a good, but.
yeah,
That'd be a good thought.
okay, so just receive and then direct staff to come back
Okay,
with user fees for the
with
next meeting?
future fees for the next meeting,
Sure.
With option.
with option.
Option
two.
two.
Okay. Got that now? Oh, you're moving it there? Councillor Walsh will move, seconder, Councillor Hodge Greaves. Any further discussion? All in favor? Motion's carried. Thank you. Moving along to five, our manager for community center parks and facilities is here to present the next report. Seamus, you have the floor.
Thank you, through your mayor. So this first report is in regard to membership for shower access at the Asphodel-Norwood Fitness Center. So recommendation that the council of the township of Asphodel-Norwood receives this report regarding membership for shower access at the ANFC. For information and further that the council of the township of Asphodel-Norwood selects option 4 in event of emergency, i.e. a level 2 or above drought, or a state of emergency, showers would be available for Asphodel-Norwood residents for a $5 fee per person. So staff were tasked with assessing the feasibility of offering showers here at the offering shower access to Asphodel-Norwood residents here at the community center or the Asphodel-Norwood Fitness Center, and to provide council with recommendations. So currently, there's 17 showers within this community center. 12 are located by the ice surface. So that's 2 in each dressing room, as well as 1 in each ref room. And then there's 5 showers in the Asphodel-Norwood Fitness Center. So the men's washroom has 2, the women's washroom has 2, and family/gender neutral/accessible washroom has 1. So current users of showers, so fitness center members, ice or floor users, referees, jamboree guests, as well as Asphodel-Norwood residents during emergencies. So in this chart, we stated, so during the jamboree, staff open dressing room 1 and 2 for jamboree guests to shower. It's by donation only. So you can see all years with exception to 2024, they're relatively very similar from $30 to $66. That again by donation, who knows if people aren't donating, or who knows if someone's donating $1 and taking 5. So during the 2025 ice storm, the community center was open as a warming center, where staff also opened showers to township residents due to them not having power for extended period of times. And in this case, dressing rooms and or referee rooms were available, free of charge. Not all dressing rooms were available though at certain times because the ice was still in, we still had our ice rentals. So items that were considered in this report, so the showers in the Asphodel-Norwood Fitness Center would only be available during staff hours, as it's the key card access. So members that have key card access could get in, but if you're not a member, you don't have the key card, you can't get in. Also, we thought of what's stopping a resident from using the facilities once they're in. Also, the men's and women's washrooms, they each have 2 showers, but there's only curtains, no door. So for privacy, that's not ideal. The accessible / family / gender neutral washroom is the only one that has its own door. Also, allowing general access to the showers could negatively affect fitness center members' experience and perception of privacy and safety. Dressing rooms could also get trickier at certain times due to if we have ice rentals. And then another possibility, we haven't yet, but one possibility could be reaching out to the Fair Board to see about their shower access providing they're in need. So staff recommend, so we're recommending not using the fitness center washrooms unless it's accessibility issues due to the reasons we stated, as well as then you're almost having to have staff there the whole time. If staff are out flooding the residents waiting, so if we allow just the dressing rooms or ref rooms, that also allows, if you're a family of, you're going in with your 2 kids, you're going in, locking the door behind you, it's privacy. You're not walking out of, both kids are in the shower and then there's someone else getting ready to go do their workout. So we feel this approach balances privacy, security, and operational feasibility. And like I stated, all would have locking doors. They lock from the inside. Staff have keys from the outside, so that if in the event that we knew a person was in there and half hour later they didn't come out, we could knock on the door, step 1, and we had to, we could open the door just to see if everything's okay. So we provided lots of options, as you can see. So options to consider, so there's option 1, shower access is available all year for $5 a person. Option 2, it's available all year by donation. Option 3, it's available all year and free for Asphodel-Norwood residents. Option 4, in the event of emergency, it would be available for $5 per person. Option 5 is the same as option 4, but it would be by donation. Option 6 is the same as the other 2, but it's free. And then option 7 would be no showers whatsoever. So financial implications. So having shower access to Asphodel-Norwood residents would lead to an increase in water sewing bill. If there was a set fee or by donation, it would also increase the recreation of the revenue GL. So in conclusion, staff recommend option 4 in the event of emergency, i.e. level 2 or above drought or state of emergency. Showers will be available for Asphodel-Norwood residents for a fee of $5 per person. Staff will also look to implement a $5 fee per person to Jamboree guests moving forward. And then we'll work diligently to complete any direction if council proceeds to choose a different option. At this
Thank you,
time, if you have any
Shane.
questions?
I liked all your comments, except you're gonna check the showers after a half an hour. I hope it's before that, my friend. Because I don't get to have a half-hour shower at home. The other part of that was, check with the Fair Board. How many showers does the Fair Board have? I didn't even know they had.
So through your mayor, I can check it out. They have the old ball building. There's a couple at the end of them because
I did it.
during fair weekend, I saw some shampoo and razors and
Okay.
outside those. So I don't know if they have any indoors or if it's just the 2 at the end of the ball
I
building.
think those,
The only 2? Okay,
And then again, that's probably not the best in a minus, it's a solution, but probably not ideal at -30.
right. Deputy Mayor Bird.
thank you very much for the report. How many residents, maybe you read it and it was a big report, how many residents use the showers during the ice storm? How many, or do you know?
Through your mayor, I don't know the exact number, but if I had to guess, it probably would have been a 25+.
Okay.
So the kind of, obviously, we all learned during this, but kind of more people heard about it. They get used, but also there's some people that had that kind of 6 days is my limit. Okay, now I made it day 6, we still don't have power, maybe I'm then gonna now come use the facility. So there was a couple of situations where we had people, not regularly, but maybe every couple days, but then we'd also had people that kind of, okay, enough's enough, it's now been day 7.
Yeah.
My wife says I'm starting to smell, so I better go shower.
Thank you.
But yes, they were used. There was also nice that, when people were coming in here for the warming center, you were able to let them know that. So hopefully, we never experience another state of emergency, but I think getting it out word of mouth that if we ever do, hey, the Millennium Room and showers are available for Asphodel-Norwood residents until we tell you otherwise.
Right. Counselor Walsh?
Yeah, again, thank you, Seamus, for the report. Yeah, very thorough. I think you've covered every possible angle. I do like the idea that it'll be, if we go with option 4, that is across the board fair for Jamboree residents coming in as well as our local residents. I'll gladly support the motion that you've put on the floor that we would select option 4 in the event of an emergency, level 2 drought or state emergency, and the charge would be $5 per person.
Okay,
I ask-
Counselor Hodge,
Or
please.
can I just ask a question, sorry to
Yeah.
you, so if we would be charging people in a state of emergency? So for example, another ice storm, we would be charging residents to use the showers at that point, but it would be free to use the warming center, but it would be a fee to use the shower.
So through you, Mayor, let's propose, yes, if we ever went to one and it extended a long period of time, we could evaluate that, but, CEO, Mr. Rutter had a good point, is the water's pay-per-view, right? So it's kind of one of those that, here's a little different, you can be like, hey, we're sharing the heat and hydro, but water's kind of, every time someone uses it,
Right.
the
It costs.
Norwood residents get charged for it.
Right.
Deputy Member.
Yeah, and just a comment to put that in perspective, we do some remote camping across the country, and you'll get into some pretty backcountry places, but there may be, showers, and you're putting, oftentimes they're coin operated, and you're putting money in, and you're making that shower. You're doing it very quickly, and believe me, $5 goes very fast, so I think a $5 thing is pretty reasonable. And yeah, if it's a huge emergency and it's lasting forever, obviously we're going to take a look at that. It could be part of the, an emergency meeting, but I think that's fair. It's across the board. That's fine.
Okay, council, that the council of the township of Asphodel-Norwood receives this report, and further the council selects option 4 in the event of an emergency. I.e. level 2 or above drought or state of emergency, showers would be available for Asphodel-Norwood residents for $5 fee per person. I have a mover. Hold on. Counselor Ward, you have a comment before that's made?
No, to move the motion, please.
Okay, Counselor Ward so moves, seconded by Counselor Walsh. All in favor? Motion is carried. You. Okay, Seamus. Carry on.
Thank you, through you, Mayor. So R6 is a report about the fitness center membership fees. So recommendations of the council, the township of Asphodel-Norwood receives this report regarding fitness center membership fees for information. And further, that the council of the township of Asphodel-Norwood selects option 1, keep fitness center memberships the same for 2026. So the fitness center opened March 20th of 2023. Memberships prices have remained same since then. As the fitness center will approach its 3-year mark in March 2026, staff thought it was appropriate time to look at the membership fees and determine if they should remain the same or if we should look at increasing. So in the first chart just shows the type of membership. So we have day, month, 3 months, 6 months a year, as well as we have the adult option, the senior option, youth, student, family, and staff. So the benefits of the membership here at the community center, at the fitness center, would be 24/7 access, your showers, change rooms, lockers. Semi-annual or annual members get a 10% studio rental discount, and there's free Wi-Fi. So the next chart, it shows the percent of memberships purchased by length of membership. So you can see, just over 54% of memberships are monthly, and then 17.7 are quarterly. So the majority, pretty much almost 86% are either day, month, or 3 months. So even though members get a benefit of eventually saving money the longer you sign up for, still over half of the members go month by month. The next chart, it's the memberships purchased by type. So as you can see, 53.4% of our members are adults. So that's currently down from 67% from last year, but this is also from October 26th. So from October 26th to December 31st, we're hopefully we will be bringing in more memberships. So as you can see, again, adults, the highest, and same with monthly. So when we were going through these options, lead hand and executive assistant, were tasked with coming up with 6%, 8% and 10% increases and what they look like. Obviously, if we ever entertain one of those ideas, looking at option 2, for example, 6% of the daily 40. Or that should be monthly, 42.4%. We would make them round numbers. Obviously, that's not ideal for the member or staff if they're having to give 60 cents back or 10 cents. So just for the sake of this chart, there's kind of what the numbers would look like. Obviously, we also during this reached out and inquired about other facilities. Trent Hill's the new Sunny Life Recreation Wellness Center, just over a year old. We also looked at North Kawartha. I know their rates, when we set our rates, the reason theirs are cheaper is they got a grant and a lot of their equipment was funded. So because they didn't have that upfront cost and a lot of the residents are seasonal. Well, we also looked at Peterborough Sport and Wellness Center, and the last one was Planet Fitness in the Peterborough Mall. My sister's a member, and I believe I see one daughter is. So that was a 24/7. We kind of included that's the only other one that way. But also, you can see in a lot of these, there's a lot of add-ins. If you go to Calvert, you can potentially swim. Right, you can potentially, if you go to the wellness center, you could potentially do, you could go swimming, you could do a fitness class, you could do a drop-in. So we took all of those considerations into account. So financial implications, if membership fees remain the same as now, there'd be no increase or no decrease to the 2026 budget. If membership fees increase, staff feel there could be an increase, but also are a little hesitant that there also could lead to a decrease in the number of members, which actually could decrease the revenue. So in conclusion, after reviewing other fitness center facilities and what's included with their membership fees, staff recommend option 1, keeping our fitness center fees the same for 2026. We look to reevaluate for 2027. This will allow us another year to see how much the YMCA in Calvert does affect us, if it does affect us at all. And we also, with over half of our members, membership sold being monthly, staff feel it's very important to retain the current members. We believe by keeping the fees the same, it will help with that. And then we'll work diligently to complete any directions should council provide another option. Lastly, before I take questions, so we have started doing yoga classes, which to try to generate our use of the studio. We kind of feel that maybe one idea would be if in 2026, we still don't feel that the studio is being maximized. Maybe then for 2027, we look at maybe that's the time if we expand the fitness center, bring in a couple more equipment to there, because as you can see, our fitness center does very well, but it's also limited to what it has. And from talking to a couple staff who are members and other people that again, there's certain equipment that we've made note of we don't have that members kind of want. So maybe in 2026, if we almost gave it 2 years to see about generating revenue for the studio. Maybe it still doesn't work. Maybe we bring in a couple more pieces of equipment. That room is used. So the one thing I'm glad staff did is when we originally went to open it, that studio wasn't going to be used unless it's rented. But based off members' advice, we opened it to members. So members stretch in there, they do core stuff, mat stuff, because the actual fitness area doesn't have a lot of room. So it kind of allows more people to be able to, maybe you do a little privacy when you're doing crunches or push-ups. So this time, if any of you have any questions, I'll be happy to answer them.
All right, so, Councilor Ward.
Yes, thank you. Through you, Mayor, to Seamus. Seamus, thank you for the report. I just had one question, and maybe it's directed to you and Jordan. So when you're doing these costs of what it costs for memberships, are you taking into account buying and purchasing future equipment that will, that it has to be replaced? And, you talk about maybe redoing something in the studio if the yoga studio doesn't work out. So where does that revenue come from if you're purchasing new equipment?
Through you, Mayor. So in the past, we haven't really considered that because our equipment was brand new and we're year 2. Maybe this is the opportunity where you now start doing it. I know in the past, I believe last year, with the permission of the treasurers, when our revenue was exceeding it, we did go out and buy a couple more exercise balls because we exceeded our projections. But that is something to consider, that going into year 4, 5, 6, obviously, we're aware all of this equipment doesn't last forever. So that could be something where, maybe with the asset management plan, or, putting a little bit of reserves away, that when the time comes to a treadmill breaks down, and if it's not under warranty, that we can have the money to fix it, and we're not going the rest of the year without one. So staff will
If-
definitely look into that, Councillor Ward.
Thank you. If I may, just a second comment. Yeah, you know, saving now, you know, saves for the future as well. Like I know sometimes even if it was a percentage or 2% increase in the fitness fees, you could put that into something for repairs or anything that might come up in the fitness center, because I just think, you know, looking ahead, it's just something that's critical for the township. But I appreciate your report. Thank you.
Go ahead.
So through you, Mayor, just to follow up on that again, when we actually, initially, when we did this report, the full intention was to raise it. And then after, we kind of thought is, will members deter and be like, I'm paying more, but I'm getting the same. Right? It's like, so I'm paying, I've been a member since day one, and there's no new equipment. So that's kind of the reason we're hesitant, that could you increase? You could, but also, are we going to lose members? Because if you look at it right now, again, members, the best deal is annual. And the majority of people are doing monthly. If we increase monthly, even though it's a couple bucks, would that put someone over I'm already not going quarterly, now I might not even do monthly. And then maybe we lose them. Also, we hold an advantage right now, we're the only facility in Norwood. So at what point does someone go, hey, Norwood charges 45, I can go to 45 in Peterborough and get way more. So that's where we're a little hesitant too on, there's that fine line of getting ready for the future, but also, are we gonna potentially deter people that our predictions next year actually go down, and then it's same thing, right sizing revenue that we predict bringing in X amount and we only bring in 10,000 less.
Just with that comment, Seamus, with the projected revenue that you had, and it was above what you actually thought you were gonna cap, how much was that?
I'd have to, through you, I'd have to look at it.
Roughly? Like, is it gonna be the same process this year, that the revenue could be higher, or did you see it gonna be a lot higher after?
So through you, Mayor, we predicted lower than last year, obviously last year was exceptional. I believe we're still on pace to beat it. So it could be maybe whatever is in excess this year. It just goes, hey, it's gonna be put for future equipment.
Okay. Deputy Mayor Burton.
Thank you, through you, Mayor. Thank you very much, Seamus. Yeah, and I do struggle a bit, because I think as council, we are seeing in real time the results of not putting fees up and not charging what needed to be charged, and we're seeing it in last year's budget, we're seeing it in this year's budget. So my fear is, you know, we keep these fees the same for 4 years, 5 years, whatever. But yet expenses go up, you know, wages go up, insurance goes up, cleaning supplies go up, everything is going up and fees are staying the same. I understand where you're coming from. I don't use the fitness center, but if I used it on a monthly basis and, you know, I was coming a couple times a week and I paid a couple bucks a month more, you're not driving to Peterborough or Campbellford for $2 each time. So, or even $2 a month. So that's kind of where I'm landing. Yeah, I get it. And, you know, maybe a daily fee is 10, maybe a monthly fee is 41, or I don't know. My fear is we're gonna get caught in this by not bringing it up a little wee bit at a time. I don't know. Just throwing that out there.
I agree with you.
Yeah, that's my concern.
Yeah.
And it is user pay. I don't know, we don't have a pool, thank goodness we don't have it. But I think if somebody's using a pool, they're gonna go to Peterborough, they're gonna go to Campbellford. I don't know, just my thought, that's my fear.
Council Walsh, you had
Yeah, just kind of build upon what Councilor Warren, Deputy Mayor Burt said is, I don't want to see us take a big jump because I am fearful with. Camelford nearby, a relatively new shiny penny that people may want to take into consideration and go over there, but. I think a little bit is better than next year having to take a whole bunch. A little bit would help you potentially be able to build and add new equipment. I like the idea of what you're doing with the studio, that if it's not going to get used over a course of another year, that maybe that becomes partially more, but stretching. I love that idea that's getting used. The building is built, so let's use it now. But then maybe, in 2027, as we buy some added equipment by taking some of this, a little bit of extra generator money versus having to just come back with tax with
That's fair all the time.
So I would be open to a little bit.
Councilor Hodge-Greaves.
Yeah, thank you through you. Yeah, because option two is a 6% increase, which is quite a jump. So perhaps it would be wise to do a smaller one and then earmark it for future equipment. And then people, you can say we're planning for the future too, so that there is the way to. Because I've been to the gyms where they have in the studio space, you could have the, those rope things and then the brass turf things, that those types of things seem very popular. And the things that you hang from the, TRX things, those are also popular things. But yeah, I agree with Deputy Mayor Byrd. If we don't do it this year, then it's harder next year, and then it has to be a 10% increase. But I also see that, Camelford is shiny, so then it's a tricky one. I think 6% might be too big.
Yes.
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 More like a tinier increase might be a good middle ground, but yeah.
What's your wishes, council? Do you want him to come back with another report, or do you want to raise the funds right now?
I'll put something on the floor that, we come back with an option, we'll call it, 1B. That's in between 0 and 6, and we come back with a 3% increase on membership fees.
Okay,
Which one's we say?
you're making that a motion
I'll
now?
make that a motion.
So it's the same motion with,
She's small, 3% increase.
Yeah, should we also, Councilor Ward's suggestion and following on around, like actually state for equipment, like if there's an excess to earmark that, or is that too rigid? But I think what's looking at
I'm
Seamus
turning
and.
to you guys.
The reality is, Councilor Hodgson and Councilor Warsaw as well is, yes, we're not adding new equipment, but cost of everything's going up. Cost of hydro's going up, cost of water's going
Yeah.
up, cost of clean supplies going up. So there are costs going up that we're not even recouping back by not doing anything. I just hate to have us trapped in that we're gonna put up 3% and that's gonna mean in 2027, there's gonna be 3.
I meant the excess.
Yeah.
Should we just say excess goes into a reserve, or just leave it as a more fluid notion?
Through you, Mayor.
Yeah.
It is a good idea, however, it fluctuates annually. Like if you're really committed, in my opinion, to replacing the equipment in 10 years, 8 years, or whatever it may be. You may want to, yes, we can add the excess, but there still should be money eventually. Looking at, right, what is this, 4th year?
So
Approaching
approaching the third.
And most of that gym equipment, I would assume, is on probably an 8 to 10 year life cycle before it starts to rust, or that becomes issues, and treadmills might be less than that. James, you probably know better than I do, like given the volume and the number of people you see out there using them. So something to think about long term, but yeah, we can definitely.
So are we comfortable with that? We're just taking a 3% price increase to basically cover incremental costs that
Yeah.
will be incurred. And maybe in 2027 budget, we look at starting to put some money aside for dedicated money aside for equipment.
And-
Is it?
Yeah, perhaps looking at. Sorry, Seamus, more work, but looking at where the warranties on the machines. I mean, weights don't, boys, we don't have free weights, but looking at where the warranties are gonna go. Because then it's gonna be, those are, it's gonna break the day after. So
Yeah.
having some money ready,
So just proposing a 3% increase on that.
Yeah, and then
Okay,
they'll manage the excess.
And 3% increase, but rounding up to the nearest
Yeah.
dollar,
Dollar.
obviously,
Sure,
then
yeah.
you're not making change, just for, like
Yeah.
I say,
it's a lot
yeah,
easier.
and I can.
I was just gonna ask them.
So Councillor Walsh, you moved it,
Yeah, with 3% run it up to the closest dollar.
and Mel, you have it. Do you
Yeah.
want to read it?
Sure. Through your mayor.
Sorry.
That the council of the Council of Asphodel-Norwood accepts this report. And further that council selects option 1B, a 3% increase rounding up to the nearest dollar. As it says, as outlined in the report, but maybe we'll leave that part out.
Okay,
That works.
that works. All in favor? So, yeah, okay, good. Thank you, Seamus. Moving along, R7. Mel, you have the floor.
Thank you, Mayor, and through you. So today I'm presenting the 2026 council meeting and office closure schedule. And this sets our meetings for the second and fourth Tuesday of the month, with the exception of July, August, October, and December. So ordinarily, I would call this a housekeeping report. We see it every year around this time, but there are a couple of pieces I want to get council's either approval or feedback on. So the first one is October. Both the second and fourth meeting, so sorry, Tuesdays aren't exactly conducive to a council meeting. So we're proposing the third Tuesday of the month, which we actually just did this past October, number 12. But we would just need a procedural bylaw approval to delegate in that case. And then secondly is the meeting location. So as council knows, we've been meeting here since 2022 when we reconfigured the council chamber space because of the COVID-19 pandemic. It was a time. So we've been meeting here, this works. We've also been meeting in the upper level of the town hall, and that works too. So later on in today's agenda, we're looking at updating procedural bylaw, and that states where council meetings are held. So before we go to that bylaw adoption, I wanted to just get council's feedback on, do we want to see a change or are we happy where we are? So I will now turn the floor back over to you, council.
Thank you. Personally, my opinion is at the town hall, like you said, and in your report that I read, and couple tablecloth things would work. This would be surplus out. I can't see the reason to keep it if we did move there, but it's up to the rest of council. But what's your decision? Do you think the meeting should be here? Seamus, you set this up, you take it all down. It takes time, then you're cleaning. You do it at the town hall with Shannon helps you. It doesn't take you very much time to put 4 tables up. Okay. Comments, Councillor Hodgkrees.
I like the town hall. Hesitant to just say, oh, surplus these. I have a feeling there was a significant cost as well as craftsmanship in them. So I'm reluctant to just say, oh, get rid of them, but I don't know
Where we
would keep them, so I understand that. So yeah, I'm sort of torn. I mean, this building has far better accessibility in terms of parking and visitors. The town hall does not have an accessible parking space. I prefer the venue of the town hall, I will say that, but in terms of accessibility, it is not as accessible as this space. I agree, I don't enjoy the panels, like I prefer the town hall, but it's not as welcoming of a space in some areas, so I'm not quite sure how I feel. Those are just some of my concerns.
Yeah. Deputy Member.
Thank you through you. Yeah, I do like the town hall. My question on that, there is a projector and there is a screen, so that is helping. Don't have a problem with the tables and tablecloth. It's nice to hide your feet and your stuff under your desk, so having something in front is nice. I was just wondering, because I did have these could be declared surplus and sold somehow. That being said, I'm just wondering if a couple of these may be good for public access computers at the library. I know right now in Westwood, it's just kind of a big ugly blue table, so I think just looking at it, one would fit, and then maybe there'd be some use for them at Norwood. There may be some use for them at other office space around the township, I don't know. But I think you could surplus them. Yeah, the accessible parking, there is one accessible parking space up there in front of the town hall, is there not?
It's near the hardware store.
Yeah, and then there's another one down below, it's.
It's behind the office, like the
Oh,
town hall.
Yeah,
or so,
right,
that
and then
is,
somewhere
yeah.
out. So I think it could work. Personally, I do like the town hall, and I think for staff, it's easier, as well. So that's just my comment, and,
Sorry, Councillor Ward?
Thank you through you, Mayor. Yes, I'm in favor of moving to the town hall. I know that from having our historical meetings there, that there's a lot of people with that seem to be able to get in and out of the town hall. Okay, maybe we, make sure that there's one spot designated closer to the entrance on the days of the meetings, if someone needs some assistance getting in for any of those meetings. But I think the space is better, and yes, if we can repurpose a couple of those desks to other areas, perfect. They were made by a local craftsman. I think Councillor Hodge agrees was correct in that. So finding another option for them would be great. But yes, I'm in favor of moving to the town hall.
Councillor Walsh?
Might as well weigh in too. I'm also in agreement to the town hall. It's a municipally owned, not that this is a municipal building, but just, there's a lot of history with the town hall. We have found that meetings do work in there. One time we thought that they wouldn't work in there, but they do work well in there. My only little struggle is similar to, the Councillor Hud's Grease, just brought the accessibility piece, and this is something I've brought up before at council meetings, is we do need to somehow figure out a way to get some accessible handicap parking spots out in front of the town hall. Not just for our meetings, just for in general, interaction from the town hall, but certainly would be in support of the town hall as well.
There's your answer, man. I'm taking it. But that's for the procedure bylaw. Correct.
Yeah, so sorry, through you, Mayor. So the recommendation is that we accept this report, authorize a temporary deviation from the procedural bylaw. Also approving the schedule, but we would need to add another and further that.
Well, if, so the schedule, we were just talking about the location.
Yes.
I think the schedule is fine, I believe, right? So it's just the location piece in the procedural bylaw that was the unknown.
I just had a question.
Oh, of course.
Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, sorry. I just was curious about, I know it's always happened, but the municipal office holiday closure. That's always happened, but is that something that's standard practice? Is it the best practice? Is that what is common, or should we revisit that as having some staff available for staff? I'm just asking. Perhaps.
Which one?
Sorry, the Christmas holiday. Is that, perhaps? CAO Mike, what,
Go ahead, CAO Mike.
Through you, my experience has been that everywhere I've worked, we've done that.
okay,
It's a very quiet time, so I know I have found myself working. I'd go into the office those times and you can't find anyone, can't call anyone, there's no one else working. Having said that, it's important to make sure that you don't have any due dates, any building dates due at that point, so we do try to avoid those, but it really is something I've experienced everywhere I go.
okay, that's fine. I just wanted to understand that.
All right. All right, then. You want me to move along with the recommended motion that the council of the township of Asphodel-Norwood accepts this report. Further, the council authorizes a temporary deviation from the procedural bylaw. The purpose of establishing the 2026 council meeting schedule, and further, that the council of the township of Asphodel-Norwood approves the 2026 council meeting and office closure schedule as outlined in this report.
Forgive me, and through you, Mayor. If council does wish to make a change, we would also just add in a
And it changes the.
direct
council.
staff to put forward another intention to adopt the procedural bylaw with that change to the town hall, if that's what council wishes to see.
Council, Deputy Mayor?
Say yes,
Yes.
add that to it, starting in,
Oh, yeah, that's because
starting in, on January 13th, 2026.
And once it gets snow like you wouldn't believe, and we'll be the first ones to whine about it. Good,
Did you get a second?
I need a mover.
Oh, I thought that was.
If you move Deputy Mayor Burns and then Councillor Rose second. All in favor? That motion is carried. Staff, final report of the day is Treasurer Webb, second draft of the 2026 municipal operating and capital budget. Go ahead, Jordan, you have the floor.
Thank you, through you, Mayor. Last Thursday, October 30th, we presented the first draft budget to council. We're back today with the second draft budget. As you went through the report, you saw we took recommendations and directions from council during the last meeting to make some changes to the second draft budget. It wasn't significant from a dollar value, but I'll just quickly go through each of the changes that we made, what the financial impact of each change was. And then I'll take any questions at the end that you may have. Or we can direct them to the management staff that are also here. One thing as we go through this, I would ask is, please provide us with direction. We're planning to come back on November 25th for the third draft budget. Our intention is to provide something to you at that date that is as close to maybe a final budget as possible. Obviously, there's a lot of information that you're still waiting for, and it was mentioned in the article, and I'll talk about it just briefly as well. So, yeah, if at any point you have any questions or you need any more information, let me know, and I'll do my best to answer it. So the changes from the first draft budget. So we received October 31st. Our allocation notice for the Ontario Municipal Partnership Fund, so it's going to increase by 21,800 in 2026, which is a bonus for us because the first draft budget had the same amount that we had in 2025. We also received updated insurance premium costing for 2026, which saved us about $5,100 in total from the budgeted amount. Councillor Wall should ask about the percentage increase from 25 to 26, and it's about 4.5%. We removed council remuneration at 2% of consumer price index. We also removed 7,500 from the fire department budget for the capital dash cams. Recreation had a number of changes. There was we've updated revenue amounts due to the ball hockey program not returning for 2026 and additional spring ice rentals. So there's a net increase in revenue there of $12,140. We also updated canteen wage benefit OT budgets to reflect canteen hours due to ball hockey not returning and reduced need for OT budget. James, do you want to mention anything on the revenues or anything there besides the?
Through your mayor. So regarding the ice rental, that was more of a staff's overlook on what we didn't anticipate people being used, so that's why the increase. So for minor hockey, that wasn't taken into consideration the prep skates or tryouts. For adult, there's since then we picked up a $900 day rental, plus one of our user groups is now extending for 4 more days in April. Outside minor hockey, that's doing the 50 additional hours for 2 organizations doing prep skates and tryouts. So, and then public skating is increasing 3 additional public skates that were sponsored. So those are the reasons for those increases. Is we kind of had the expenses allocating till the ice starting to abate, but we might have overlooked ice renters. So
so the parks budget, we also reduced the hanging baskets budget by $1,700. And we increased the Parks Trees budget by $1,500. Also, the future parks plan, a transfer to reserve of $7,000 was reduced to $5,000. Not from a financial standpoint, it isn't the biggest change, but, the capital plan for the recreation department had changed slightly based on our conversations around the compressors. So I'll quickly just touch on the changes and then I'll send it over to Seamus if he wants to add any further detail on that. So previously we had a transfer to reserves of 50,000 for the facility roof. We also had 50,000 for compressors, 10,000 for future community center repairs, a dehumidifier at $67,000, and then the lobby roof unit at, I think, $42,000. So we've changed that. We've left the transfer to reserves in for the arena roof. We've also increased the future repairs at the community center to $30,000 from 10, so $20,000. That $20,000 increase is for the dehumidifiers in a future year. We've increased the transfer to reserves for the compressors from 50,000 to 130,000 next year, with the intention to do both compressors in 2027. Seamus and I spoke with a contractor who does familiar with equipment and does the installation, and James can add a little bit more detail in a couple minutes, but he did mention to us that the compressors, condition wise, there's no real concerns, and that installing in 2027 isn't a significant risk for the township. We also removed the lobby rooftop AC unit from the budget altogether in 2026. Splash pad pump remained in at $7,500.
So through you, Mayor, so when talking to the representative, they identified, first of all, if the compressor did go down, we want to lose our ice. They confirmed that within 2 to 3 days, they'd have the other one up and running. They said we would be fine to operate on one compressor for a little bit, but now if you had a weekend of OHL games, they probably want to recommend it. But if you had a weekend of minor hockey, depending on the weather outside, you could get through it. So knowing that now, and based off what we told them, that we're now proposing that we do both of them in 2027. They did state again, if we don't do them together because of the size of the room, and the one closest to the inside has to be replaced first, so they would have to have it on site, take it apart piece by piece, bring it in the room, build it back piece by piece, which I believe he said would be about $20,000 to do that. So if you do them together, you're taking both out, you have more room to bring both in. So what we're anticipating is we put 130,000 away this year, which then technically still in the budget next year, that we either do both projects together in 2027, or another alternative would be, if council didn't want to do both together, is maybe 100, some of that money in 2027 would be used for, maybe it's the humidifier, or Councilor Walsh asked now that if we're not doing the compressors to 2027, do we look at bringing one of the other things potentially back in the picture? Or is it do nothing next year with the anticipation of doing both in 2027, or doing one in 2027 and the dehumidifier? Or, but they did advise that compressors are about 20 to 25 years in length. We are coming up on year 22. So they did say we have to keep good care of them and be keeping up the general maintenance, but it's also something that they said is you don't want to play Russian roulette and make it to year 30, attempt that way. So they said they're pretty confident in 2026, there should be no issues. And if an issue came in left field, they did confirm that we want to be down our ice for the rest of the year. You'd be within 2 to 3 days. And they said about they roughed out the price of an overhaul would be about 10 grand. So if compressor did go down and was toast, within 2 or 3 days at about 10 grand, it'd be back up and running.
Okay. Yeah. Through you, Mayor. So the following are items that are still being reviewed by staff. The heat pump AC option at Cultural and Heritage Society. Fans or heat pump for the community center lobby. finalizing the ice season, updating canteen operating, costs, to factor in, utility costing and, some other types of costing, reconditioning the splash pad pump, tree dedication campaign, summer rental options for the community center, leaving the one-ton truck in Westwood, possibility of purchasing used equipment, an upgrade, SCADA system upgrade, at the wastewater treatment plant, lab opportunities for the new medical center, and then shared costing with other municipalities. So as you're aware, in the first draft, we presented three, levels for tax increases and rates. So the new, current requirement rate, if you saw in the report, is 2.89%, which equates to $4.40 per month increase, to a residential property with an assessment of $227,000. If you factor in the 1 to 2 year requirements as well for future planning, that would be an 8.37% increase and a $12.75 per month increase. And then the 3 to 5 year requirements would be an 11.17% increase, which equates to $17.01 per month increase in taxes. So again, we're kind of seeking your direction on next steps and what you think, staff should be looking at for the next update. Would you like me to just quickly go through the water and wastewater, or would you like to discuss this first and then?
I think we'll discuss this first.
Okay.
Who would like to go first? Councilor Walsh.
Yeah, thank you very much, Jordan and James Law. So if I have this right, we kind of, I know we had compressors in there, we had AC unit, and then we had humidifier in there, we had AC unit in there, we had compressors kind of percolating down the bottom. We kind of felt maybe after the first drought that the compressors should maybe bump to the top. Sounds like now though, that that's probably an okay state, that we can start putting aside money this year and next year to do a complete job in 2027. It does make sense to do them both at once versus coming in and tearing one apart with the second one in. I guess the only other question I didn't have is the dehumidifiers, we keep putting them off, I know we're looking to potentially propose putting 20,000 away in the 2026 budget to replace one 67,000, that's for the two of them. Just the one, that's for one, and we have two.
Correct.
I just wondering, are we living on, and I'm throwing it back and you, no pressure. Are we living on borrowed time with that dehumidifier, and how important is that to the shape of the ice being used to?
So through your mayor, obviously, it's kind of been on the action list for since I believe pre-COVID, but yeah, now knowing the compressors. You're not gonna look at 2027, maybe you do the dehumidifier and then that 20 that you were already putting in, now you're only 41 extra, and maybe you're not putting the 130 for the compressor year one, maybe you're putting 100 of it, 90,000. So yeah, you're not, but I think now that's something that if we don't do it this year, again, to the council next year, new things can come up. Maybe it doesn't get done again in 2027. And then in 2027, you're doing both compressors, hopefully, probably not getting done then it's 2028. So I think it'd be probably definitely worth it if providing it makes the budget. But if we're now looking to do one thing in 2026, I would say that's it. Lobby roof unit, we are looking at alternate temporary solutions to maintain and get through the AC portion. But that project too, eventually will need to be done, but that 41,000 is definitely gonna be no to do that. We're even looking at a temporary, just some fans. We don't want anything permanent because potentially, depending on the cost, we do have someone coming in to quote it. But we don't wanna do something where we're putting more money into retrofit a building that when the time comes, the lobby rooftop unit does get replaced, now it's this, what we just put in now gonna be obsolete. So I think there are alternatives, whether it is just plugging in some fans, temporary, staff are looking into that option.
So I guess based on that, I'm kind of thinking whether we need to have at least one dehumidifier being done in 2026. I don't know what the rest of the council thinks, but we keep putting it off, we keep putting it off. We're putting the compressor portion off, we're gonna build reserves to get there, but at some point, we're gonna have a really big hit down the road versus take a little chunk now and do it. That's just my thought.
Yes. Councillor House Grace.
For you, yeah. Being a regular user on the ice, you notice when it's humid and the ice quality is really poor. And when you're putting the ice in the, the shoulder seasons, it's quite important piece of equipment. And at you can't keep pushing everything down if there's a way to do a dehumidifier, because the building, you can tell when one of them's not working optimally. It's like you can see the moisture on the windows, you can't see anything. So, and if it's been in the plan since pre-COVID, that's 6 years of it not. And I think it's what the Pragmatics person said, it's urgent, but not quite enough. It's important, but never quite urgent enough. And I think that's probably something here. So yeah, I like the plan that it's good news that the compressors have a couple more years in them, but the dehumidifiers, I feel like we should do something with that, but everything costs money, so I don't know, but yeah.
Member.
I don't know either.
Don't help at all.
I know, but okay, I'm just gonna go back to the beginning. And not that this is going to make much of a difference, but the reduced parks hanging baskets by 1,700 and put the trees budget by 15. We don't have to, that was just a suggestion. We don't have to increase the trees budget. It's only $1,500. So if you want to take that right out, that is absolutely fine. Because we did the other. I just wanted a clarification from the report, and this is in the Parks Department. Park student staff are required for 18-week park season. 2025 budget was for 16 weeks. Is this additional staff or is this just giving 2 extra weeks? Can you just clarify that?
Yes, through your mayor, no additional staff, it's just for the parks
2
budget,
weeks.
this is actually 18 weeks to give them a better indication of the season that summer students are here.
Okay.
So in the past, some of it's been put on the recreation, but moving forward, what we want to do is if little Jimmy's hired as a summer student, the whole time he works there, it hits parks versus previously some of it recreation if they work the ball hockey shift. So moving forward, it's just gonna be, and we did a forecast that that's not all of them. If we bring on, like some of our staff will be already gone back to school. So that's only, I believe for the 2 extra weeks was 210 hours over 2 weeks for staffs. And that's also there's no additional staff. If anything this year, we've actually reduced our predictions of what we anticipate using in 2026 versus 2025.
Okay, and is that the same in recreate? Like, I'm just checking, are there any additional staff in parks and or recreation? Was there any?
Through you, Mayor. Staff or hours?
Okay, staff actually, just additional staff. And no, there wasn't, okay, but there are some extra hours to
Through-
bring that up to
through-
the 18 weeks from the 16 weeks.
Correct.
Okay, just wanted to double check that. And, just for council's, information, I did send after our meeting, I sent an email to both Mike and Jordan. And they have the different outlines of, increases of this percentage and this percentage and this percentage. So I sent back an email and said, okay, what would it look like if we wanted to end up with a draft budget of 7.9%, just to get it under that 8? And where could you find that? And Jordan was able to send some information back to me. And right now we're $16,000 short of reaching that. Is that correct still at this point, even with the new numbers, correct?
Through you, Mayor, yes, throughout the 16,000.
Okay, so just so you know, I just thought that gets it down below 8. It still addresses some of the ongoing concerns in that year 2. Anyway, that was just my question,
Right.
and that's where we're sitting, and I don't know if you can find $16,000 to get us to that 7.9%. Maybe that's a question for you and managers, and I don't know. Probably not. But
Go ahead, Mike.
The optimist in me, the treasurer doesn't have an optimistic one. Yeah. Got the real list. The optimist in me hopes that, when we get our assessment numbers, that we have been overly conservative up to now.
Okay.
And so we think there's some additional, assessment, in there, new assessment from those. That, might tip us over that point. So we don't have those numbers yet, so we can't say that for certain. But we're really hopeful that we have probably been overly conservative in those, not $100,000 worth of over, we're optimistic, but some. We think there's some potential there for us to take that final reduction from that 8 point whatever to 7 point.
So I guess just to further that on, so, it didn't come to council this time as a report because it wasn't a motion of council. It's
Right.
just a question I had. So I don't know if, I'm just throwing this out there to council,
Yeah.
if councilor board has a question. Is that something we want to see, and what would it take to get us there? That might be one option. Are there other options? I don't know that there are. We're pretty lean here. And given, the dehumidifier question, I don't know. But just throwing that out there for the rest of council.
Councillor Ward?
Thank you, through you, Mayor. And I have a question for Jeff, if I may, and it's regarding the 1-ton truck. And I should have asked this at the last meeting, and excuse me if this is a question that's not relevant, but you leaving the 1-ton truck with the plow in Westwood. I was just wondering, is that plow detachable? And instead of the purchase of 1-ton truck plus a plow, could a plow be put on a new 1-ton truck? Sorry, that makes sense.
Yeah, through you, Mayor, it is detachable. It's in pretty tough shape, the plow, and they have a hard life. A lot of maintenance to it. It is detachable. I don't know, I guess depending the harness type or whatever, I think the harness could be retrofitted to another truck, but we've done a lot of fabricating to this current plow, so it's banged up pretty good.
Okay, thank you. No, I was just trying to save 16,000.
Any other comments? Deputy Member?
I actually have another question for Jeff. And I didn't write it down, but I thought of this. So, again, it's getting back to the gravel roads. So we're in the budget, we're planning on doing resurface or surface treatment for the 8th line and the 7th line. And I'm just wondering if when the time comes next year, is it possible, this is more from a procedural end of things, if we're finding that our roads, and the roads are pretty tough right now before the snow, they're worse now probably. Could that money that's been put in the budget for the 7th line be used on gravel roads, like maybe, another 80,000 or something, put off the 7th line? And again, this is just a hypothetical question. I don't know, because I don't know about you or anybody else, but we're getting a lot of complaints about the roads, and it is widespread. And so that's just a question. We're not taking the 7th line out at this time. If we're leaving it in, and even though it's earmarked for that, could that money be used elsewhere if needed?
Through you, Mayor, absolutely. I mean, that's always an option. I think just one thing we kind of dabbled in, but we didn't go right down the trail fully, was spot replacement of the subset. I think the worst spots are through the swamp, the golf course, first thing, and it's not so bad until you get down to the far end by center line. So and that's always an option. A little bit of something and then maybe popping up gravel more if that's what you're thinking.
Yeah, that's just what, I don't know. I did a lot of driving on those roads last week.
Yeah,
They're,
so did I.
they're a little tough. Now, that being said, I did send some information to Mike and Jeff and Jordan. There's a grant out, we could get up to $38,000 for pothole repair and prevention. But it's a quick turnaround. December 12th for the grant. So anyway, the 38,000 would help. Anyway. I just throwing that out there, like I say, more from a procedural standpoint than anything.
Go ahead, Mike. Yeah, through you, Mayor. I don't get the sense that that's a very competitive process either. It's they, in the document, they say 263 municipalities can qualify for up to $38,000 and there's $10 million in the pot. And if I do the math, 263 times 38,000 is 10 million. So I think that,
So is our name in that 263?
I think we are one of the 263.
Perfect.
Good.
So we'll have a look at that, but I mean, I think it's my sense of it is that they know there's a problem out there, which they know other municipalities are trying to catch up. Here's a lot of money to do that, so we'll dig into that as much as we possibly can. We haven't had a chance to talk to Jeff about that yet,
Okay,
but yeah, we'll look into that. for sure.
okay.
Councillor Walsh?
So just to follow up on that, remember, so the thought possibly would be is put the seventh line on hold, which would save over 200K. Reinvest a little bit more in gravel to get more of our gravel roads in a better position, which wouldn't necessarily use up the 200K. And then look at this grant to at least Band-Aid on the seventh line, some spots that desperately need some assistance. And the thought.
And like, yeah, now my thought was to leave the budget for the seventh line in of that 200 and some, I forget the exact number. And then if we don't do it, that say 100,000 of that could go into gravel. I don't know. I'm just throwing it out there. Is that like, we could do that as an option? Maybe we put $100,000 into the seventh line, keep that in the budget for 2027 and take 75,000, put more of that into our gravel roads. And that leaves us with an extra 25,000 to use somewhere. I'm just trying to
think of
think
ways
of
around this.
numbers and
I know
that's up to you guys.
Jeff,
I just-
you're the
things out there.
manager of the roads and that'll be up to you. Go ahead.
I think a great example right now, and I just come back last week and come back, I wish I had stayed off in the So but honestly, I think, it's worth the drive to go to the north and you see the seventh from the fresh gravel this year and the abuse that it takes. And you know, it's a busy road, especially with all the construction and
Yeah.
it has held up. It's getting some holes in it now, but it's nothing compared to something. So I don't think you're hitting on the wrong path to say that some fresh gravel to expand. It definitely works, and that's a prime example of it with the fresh gravel this year and how it's held up. So, and it's just a call.
Councillor Walsh.
Just I'll back the other, that's what I'm, if we were to consider going down that path of bumping up the gravel road work feasibly can it get done in 2026? Like if we bumped it, say 60,000, I don't know how much gravel it is, but a number, $70,000 more in gravel. Feasibly, could that get done with the staff you have, knowing all the other priorities you have? That would become a priority as we're trying to get this many of our roads in better shape with more gravel on. Is that feasible?
Yep, I think, the one thing with the no lumps, it goes on and there's no lot of it grading as much as you're getting when you're gravel spread, so you know that you can drive on it right away, it's just a matter of going around it, and I think, it might be, just on the spot thinking, I think like the contractor may want to put the cone up and like crush all the gravel, and then they might have to come back a couple of times when no dumps were available. You know what I mean? If that makes sense, at least if all the gravel was crushed, if we give them a tonnage number, they can put that cone up. They have scales on the loaders, they know how much gravel they've crushed. So that might be a lot for them to stay here for that amount of time, to complete that, but I mean, they might have to do something in two stints, and I would say typically don't want, or we're finding I feel quite comfortable saying that we would be fine, to get it done even in one shot. It might be 2 or 3 weeks or something like that, if they have the time to stay there. So, one thing with the east end, it's our farthest point, and it takes them a little while to get that much gravel. So that one takes a bit of time, but the other ones are the.
Yeah, I'm just throwing that out there just for an option as you're going through numbers, just to take a look at, because I think come spring, that will be the number one concern, and it has been already, and, yeah, they are pretty rough.
Yeah,
They're pretty rough, so. And just throwing that in there.
I like that, you could save that 20,000, 5,000 there.
Yeah,
Go ahead, Jeff.
When's that next one, Jordan? I think when I was sitting there, I just wondered if I can figure out bring in current. Pushing it. It's similar.
Okay. It doesn't have a hard. Counselor Hodgkrease.
It just, are we? I don't know, is it just another thing of
Putting off.
putting off and then we can't? Like, I don't know, that's my only thought, are we just putting it off again? And then that one still has to be managed, whereas if it's surface treated, it doesn't need to be managed. And then you throw it all, like, you deal with the gravel, but I know complaints, I mean. I don't know, we live in a rural township as well, and our roads are, they're maintained very well, and I struggle with that. So much of our budget literally goes into dirt, and it's sometimes a bit overwhelming to realize how much time and money we spend on just roads, and I know they're important, but I don't know, I don't know, I feel it's so much money. And they're roads that they're uncomfortable to drive on, but I don't know, I struggle with this a bit, I struggle with the budget being so big for gravel. Anyway, I don't have any thoughts, it's not quite solidifying in my brain, but. Thank you.
I look at looking 2 years ahead, the requirement at 8.37. That's 1275 on a 227,000 assessment. Most houses, what's the average assessment of houses in Asphodel-Norwood? Can you,
Well,
any
it's
idea?
227.
227 is the average of them all. Mine would be in the 300 range, so I would imagine there's a pile of them in that range, which would put it up to maybe $16. Is that correct per month?
I have to get my calculator.
Sorry,
Close enough.
say 325 for an assessed house.
Yeah, sorry, I gotta turn this
Okay.
down.
I'm looking at $16 a month, that's, yeah. I know it sounds high, but I do like looking at 2-year increments ahead. I don't like this. You do 1 year and then we're falling behind on things. At least you know the money's gonna be there. We're not pulling on reserves as much. We had a county council meeting a week ago there, and Lori and I were there, and they were having a hard time arguing the budget, weren't they? They
very hard time.
couldn't figure out, it was
The rate.
5.44, finally,
That's levy, rate is 4 point
yeah, 9,
something.
3. But finally I stood up, I asked through the ward, what do you want for a figure? We can come to the figure, that's not a problem. But you will pay for it down the road. Right now, you've got everything. The reserves are moving on a flat line or raising a wee bit, the capital is moving up a wee bit. And operations is straight lining, which
This year, we're in a better shape than the county.
it took
have
2
been.
years to get up.
Next year we'll be in a better shape here. Than
If
we
you were to
have been.
pass that.
I think we're getting there. Yeah, just from the perspective of the roads, I do live on a dirt road. I'm the one that does, and that's all I hear. quite frankly, and I have farmers who will go out and fix the roads in front of their yards and laneways, for the milk truck, and they're out there probably twice a month fixing up the roads on their own, so those are,
Truck could drive slower.
yeah, well, oh, you could, honestly, I don't know if you've driven the roads, but you go ahead.
Jordan?
and You try.
What's that come out for 350, around 60? Oh, you never did get it.
It's about $18.
$18. What's your pleasure, council? Councilor Walsh.
I'll throw something out there. I think I'd like to have the dehumidifier looked at as a potential 2026 spend. We keep putting that one off. It's gonna keep getting put off. We have gonna lock in the compressor to be done, or at least reserve built to replace it 2 years. And then to get in there, Bert's thought is, could we consider pulling back on the 7th line? That was 218K in the budget. Taking a chunk of that, investing it into enhancing our gravel on some of our gravel roads. We would end up still saving money because it wouldn't spend $218,000 on gravel there. Put the remainder aside for 7th line to happen in the following year. And then pursue that grant. There's $38,000 out there in grant money. Then at least fix some potholes and some significant areas in the 7th line we can look at.
Okay. So go ahead, Mike.
Well, I just wondered if I could ask a question.
Yes.
Is the intent that we would? We had 130,000 being transferred to reserve for the compressor in 2027, in 26, done in 27. We had 20,000 being transferred for a dehumidifier. Is the intention then to take that 150 and subtract the 67 for the dehumidifier, or is it to add so that you're transferring less to reserve? Or add 67 to the bottom line of the budget, or 47 to the bottom line of the budget?
Yeah, because we've got right now, we've got transfer reserves, 30,000. And we still leave that at 10 and take it to 20 and put like that dehumidifier is 67K. I just hate this. I think we just need to bite the bullet on that dehumidifier and at least put one of them in this year. Maybe we don't put 30,000 in reserves for the second one.
I think your question is, do we take the reserve from the compressor and put it?
Transfer less to reserve.
Yeah,
for the
for the
compressor.
compressor, and put it towards the dehumidifier.
I'm not sure I want to do that because we still need that.
You still need it.
Still need the 260 for the compressor. I sort of see us on the reserve that we have for future project repairs. If we can pull that one down. That we're only putting, say, 47, I don't know, we need to do, I think we need to do the dehumidifier this year. Means less goes into reserve for future projects and repairs. That would be my thought.
Can you show us options? Can you show us options? Pulling from the compressor reserve versus not, and just kind of laying that out. Is that suitable?
So through you, Mayor, I think what Mike was attempting to get at is, do you want money? Yeah.
Yeah.
This is the optimist in me.
Yeah.
Do you want to add money to the budget to cover the difference? To get that dehumidifier in
Yeah.
there? Or are you looking for us to pull money from other recreation capital or elsewhere in order to?
Thinking of that.
Okay. Yep.
Councillor Ward.
Yes, thank you, Mayor, through you. Yes, that was kind of what I was trying to get to was, were we going to pull things from other places? But I was just wondering, is the community action grant still open? And would it be something that under the sports and rec that we could look at possibly for the compressors? I think that they had grants available up to 50,000. I don't know if it's still, and it might be tight timelines. But I was just wondering that might help alleviate some of those things that we need to do at the recreational center in terms of the compressor. And I know that that's not a given. You don't know if you're going to get those grants or not, but it may be something to look at. Anyways, that was my comment.
Okay, thank you. Gordon,
Through you, Mayor. I'm not familiar with the community action grant. I know we recently applied for the emergency preparedness grant. So that was up to 50,000, 100% funding. I did ask the question when I spoke to one of the advisors about, you know, equipment in some of these types of facilities, but they really focused on funding areas that is strictly emergency preparedness,
That's the
not
emergency
necessarily facility upkeep, general maintenance, that type of stuff that they feel should be budgeted by the municipality.
I was just wondering, I know we're going to talk about it in general, but perhaps adding, looking at speaking to the Ministry of Tourism or Neil Lumstrom, the Minister of Sports and Rec, maybe a delegation for that to get some funding as well for the upkeep of that arena. Thank you.
thanks.
I'm just gonna circle back on that, so.
Yes,
Dehumidifier 67K. I would, my thought was instead of putting 30,000 aside for future project repairs, that drops to 10. So the net effect would be 47K being added. That's yeah, percent, yeah. But if you look at the roads, you know, do some maneuvering around the roads, we might save.
all right, Seamus, go ahead.
Through you, Mayor. Because it's for future, do you look at for this year, goal of 30? Because effectively the dehumidifier can be considered future, so in 2026, you transfer the 30 from future, the dehumidifier, you only put it, saves you 10 extra grand.
And you're putting nothing as a project outside of process.
So what's your,
Can you find that 37,000 by just pulling that out of the compressor? I don't.
Oh, that.
Go ahead,
we're gonna have to
Seamus.
Put it in next year.
But we're gonna be in better, we should be in better shape next year.
Was the part B, if you put the 67, do the dehumidifier, you had to pull some from compressor, that 67 that's currently in the budget, 2027. You could remove X amount of it and then transfer the rest of it to the 130 that you remove. Can you? Because if we put the 67 in, dehumidifiers go, that's technically in the 2027 budget. You could say if you have to pull 30 from compressors, you could take 30 from that in 2027 back to compressors and remove the other 36, could you not?
sort of like how we take the fire truck?
We're just shifting.
You're shifting.
We're shifting. First time.
Mike, go ahead.
If it, through you, Mr. Mayor, if we could, let us take that back. I think we understand that council's wish is that we improve the dehumidifier.
All right,
And figure out the most cost-effective way to do that. Without really increasing the bottom line at all.
Yeah.
So we leave that with us and we'll put our minds together and everything's just gonna have to spend some more time with me. That's all there is to it.
just a couple comments. Go ahead, Councillor Hodgepries.
I have a different topic to ask about, so if you're,
Okay, I was just gonna mention, that's to get it down to 7.9, I think you said,
No, that's not really,
okay,
no.
because
I
to
would
be in
like
a
to put
good,
out there to,
Okay.
if we wanted to, we could just direct staff to, what would it look like to get us to 7.99%? What would we be cutting?
because to come back into a better position next year, we gotta do the 1 to 2 year requirement.
Yeah.
Not the current requirements at all. And I can't see how you're gonna get that much lower myself, not unless you're gonna rob reserves and
Well, it's 16,000. That's basically.
You watch, it'll be more than that.
Well, that's what Jordan said.
Yeah.
I'm just,
Now you're on the hook, Jody.
I'm just saying that's what he's.
Yeah. Go
So
ahead.
through you, Mayor, just to touch on the 7.9%, so we did reduce some of the future transfers to reserve in order to get to that number, so there is some risk
Yeah.
associated with getting to the number.
Okay.
Catch up at a later date as well. But when you factor in, we were at, what, I think 12.86, I believe, for the 3 to 5 year in the first draft.
Yeah,
To bring that down is a substantial amount, so, yeah, essentially, it was mostly the transfers to reserves for future projects that were either cut in half or reduced by a certain amount. And if anyone wants, a breakdown of that after the meeting, just let me know or send me an email. Send Mike an email and we'll get it to you.
okay, Councilor Walsh.
Rick, you mentioned about assessment, we would know, when might we know that?
They typically come out through, through
Yeah.
Mr. Mayor, they typically come out first week of December, is my recollection, or December 1st. So we may not know, we would certainly know for the ninth, when we were bringing the budget, the final budget forward. But again, even as an option, we could. There isn't, we all know this, there's not much wiggle room in this budget, but I'm sure we can find a few $1,000s if we need to get us to a number. If we get to that point, if we find assessment, gets us 13,000, I'm sure we can find the 13,000 to get us, or the 3,000, sorry, kind of get us where we need. But, we can lay out that 7.9 option in the next report, just so all members of council can see the ramifications of that. It's like I say, it's just an option. It's
Yes.
You can decide if you like it or not. And it largely comes from Jeff's budget, so weird.
Well, I'll tell you, if I was Jeff, I wouldn't be all that happy. Councilor Hodge agrees.
So I'm not sure, following up from the Phragmites discussion and presentation, that was looking for funding or interest, so is this the time to discuss
I
it?
think under general
But we're talking about money.
money, I know, but
So-
they're gonna come back with more figures for us. And when we bring it up in general, that'll be thrown back into them too.
Okay, that's fine, I just didn't know if that was,
Yeah,
if this was the time or not the time, so.
any further comments?
Just a question, do you need official direction from us? Do you need a motion from us, or do you have a pretty good handle on the comments? Just want to make sure.
If I can,
Go ahead.
Mr. Mayor, if I could just kind of go through a summary of what we are looking to do. We want to add the dehumidifier and try to do that in a way that affects the bottom line as little as possible. But having it done in 2026. Remove, or at least consider removing the $1,500 for more trees. Review the reallocation of the 7th line funding to gravel and potentially doing a smaller section and using the pothole grant. To fix up other areas of the 7th of the roads. Investigate the community action grant and see if it's still available. And then I had, whether or not you want this or not, is to add the Phragmites number into the mix as well and see where that lands.
You might as well put that in now.
So that was my list, unless I missed some.
Are they missing anything, council?
Did you want to look at 7.9%?
Instead of the 8.37.
Yeah,
It can be,
what's your,
can be an option.
yeah? Look at 7.9% also. If not, also,
Right, the 8.37 included all of the 1 and 2 with
yeah. Anything you drop, you're not including 2 year.
it's. Yeah, so we'll certainly include that information in the report, just so we can, so that we can see it. And you can take it right if you want. You can take some of those suggestions.
Yeah.
But that's my list.
All right. So, Jordan,
Do you want me to start with the water now, or?
yes,
Okay, so this one's quite simple. The only change to the budgets from the first draft budget was updated insurance costing. Which I think was about $600 total, so the result of that is the Norwood water would decrease by 1 cent per month for a family using 20 cubic meters, and Norwood wastewater would decrease by 2 cents. And then for Trent View, they would see a reduction of 11 cents per month for the average family use. We are currently discussing or looking into a SCADA system upgrade for the wastewater treatment plant, so we hope to have the costing for that at the next budget meeting. And a plan, it's a multi-year phase-in plan potentially. But we do have a transfer to reserves amount in wastewater budget currently
Right.
that will cover that costing.
Okay.
Are there any questions on water, wastewater?
wastewater, any comments, questions? No? None at all. Okay, so can I get a motion to accept this report for information that we've had? And do we need a motion for them to come back with options, or they already know that? Is that correct, Mike?
We're just comfortable.
Okay. All right, we'll accept this report for information. Bird, Deputy Mayor Bird and Councilor Wall. All in favor? Motion's carried. All right, moving along to correspondence for action. What's council's wish with respect to C11 conservation D3? Remember,
Actually, I'm just going to declare, pecuniary interest just because I have a family member who works for Conservation Authority. And I did look into this through the Integrity Commissioner a couple of years ago. If it's Orca and our own, I'm fine. If it's general, I should declare.
should declare.
So
All
I
right.
will make a comment on this. I will declare, and if you have paperwork, that would be fine. And I'm not gonna leave the room because I don't think we'll have a discussion, so.
No, what's your pleasure here, council, with this?
This is for freezing fees for users of conservation. Authority fees,
These are for building.
so that means it's more comes to us, but
Infrastructure that it's yours.
Yeah, the fee structure,
Yeah,
those versus those saying.
so that's for consumers to use the service. It's not for, this isn't freezing our expectation, it's for the fees that people pay.
the fees that people pay.
So I would say we should support this because it is another type of download that the provincial government is once again. Free, so they have to recover their costs and they will now be having to recover them from us. So I would say I would support this.
Okay. Moved by Councillor Hodge Greaves, seconded, Councillor Walsh. Any further comments? All in favor? It's carried. Okay, moving along to C12, removing the HST and GST from new homes for supportive housing affordability. Bradford West, Wilberry.
Support.
Motion to support, Deputy Mayor Byrd, second by Councillor Walsh. Any comments? All in favor? And that motion is carried. And lastly, extended producer responsibility, the blue box recycling collection and impacts of small businesses located in mixed use properties, town of Whitby. Motion with support, Counselor Walsh, Counselor Hodge Greaves. All in favor? And that motion is carried. Council liaison reports, I'll let Counselor War start off, seeing she's a long way away.
Nothing to
Counselor Warren.
report.
Okay, thank you. We'll move along to Counselor Hodge Greaves.
Thank you. I attended in November, the special events committee, moving ahead with family day planning. It's going well. The committee is awaiting direction, CAO Mike on the showcase and a meeting schedule for that. They're getting concerned that it's getting closer and closer and there's no fixed ideas. So, or no fixed plan of meetings. That was the, yeah. So, and, yes, that was,
Okay, Counselor Walsh. Nothing to report, Deputy Mayor Booth. Myself, I was asked to go to honors and awards at the Norwood Legion and bring greetings from Township of Asphodel-Norwood. And I also told them that we like working with them with a lot of projects that we have worked with them in the past, and hopefully things keep going forward like that. And I will be at the Remembrance Day service tomorrow 9 and at 11 Norwood. General business, does anybody have anything they'd like to discuss? Deputy Member.
Roma delegation, any suggestions? I have our normal two.
Tourism and sports was mentioned.
Yeah, that was also mentioned, but the other two, the Ministry of Health, the Ontario Medical Association, whichever. And I don't think we have to do a lot of changes to our delegation, but I think.
You've mentioned infrastructure too.
And infrastructure for the Highway 7 water upgrades, I think those are important. And then Councillor Ward had mentioned another.
Councillor Ward, did you mention another one for us to see at Roma delegation?
It was just, I don't know if staff will have enough time to put together something, but I was just concerned about, you know, some of the costs that are, you know, going to be incurred for the, our sports complex, and going forward with compressors and so forth. And I'm wondering if we maybe should do a delegation to maybe, you know, see the importance of upkeeping that center that's so important to our community.
Okay. I'm sure that Seamus can come up with something. Mike can help. Deputy Member.
I just have another thought, and that maybe it's not for this time, because if we get those ones, I think that's a lot. But just something to keep in mind for another term of council. You would have read in Tricia's library report, she completed the CLOG funding for 8593. That funding hasn't changed for about 20 years. It just doesn't change, and then other opportunities such as student wages and that sort of thing used to be covered for 2 students all year round. That is no longer covered either, hasn't been for a number of years. So I think at some point, reaching out to Minister of Tourism, Culture and Gaming is what it is right now. It wouldn't hurt, and it's something to maybe think about. Because as things get a little tighter with finances, and you know, a lot of families are maybe struggling right now. I think the libraries become more important. So just throwing that out there, we can add it this time. We don't have to, but I think it's something that we need to keep in the back of our minds. Right now, the minister, I believe, is still Stan Cho, so he's been here, and he's quite a character. So maybe it's something we can look at, but we've already got 3 on the books, so perhaps it's something we can.
We can get it.
Yeah,
Right.
and like that would be like not just us, that's province wide.
Oh, I know.
But something.
And I know that other municipalities have said the same thing at different conferences I've gone to. Yes, we've gone to the library.
Yeah, and we've never done that before, so it's just a thought.
Yeah. Okay, that's general business. Well, pragmatics, but we already asked to put the money towards the budget. So,
Can I ask a question?
yes,
On the Bragg Mighties? Jeff's still here, right? You're hiding. And I know there's the ones on the center line, like, I do agree that, like, on our public lands and parks and that, like, even by Birdsall's and Asphodel Heights, I don't think, I just don't think there's any there. It is on private land, so I'm not sure how much we need to put into that. So that's just my thought. Yeah. Yeah, I just don't think,
I know spraying's not always well with local farms.
yeah.
If not, excavation, we get rid of it, spray them. Those are just kind of.
Huh.
Not good. One certainty of this is a one shot deal, well, maybe.
I know, I struggle with putting that in when we're, we're trying to find $1,500 there, here and there for our own budget, and I know it's a need, and I think the communication piece needs to come out for individual landowners, like it is an issue. And there is going to be some work done on our county roads. But I'm struggling a little bit with this, so.
Yeah,
Oh,
in regards to say, education is important for public works employees as well, and I see that the county goes a lot where the shoulder more is kind of to drag it. Well, that's frustrating with such a
Oh,
invasive species that can spread so quickly, so it's important to educate the operators. Ed and I, one of the biggest crowds I is up Camden Maple Street on the island. So it's quite a feel like that, so places like that.
yeah, like I think if we can educate the landowners or the property owners that maybe there'll be funding available to do something, I think that's maybe where we.
and it's like Christmas ornaments people make out of it, and they spray paint the tops of them red. Does that stop the spread, or is that still bringing the spread around there? People taking it home to their houses and putting it outside and the wind's blowing it. I don't know. Councillor Hodgkreaves.
But I think what Tom was also looking for was collective action. So I do think a huge education piece, because I don't love spraying either, especially, but I think if it gets into our water systems and it'll start to cause drainage issues and all sorts of down the road economic costs, as well as it is an environmental issue, I think it's an important, and it's going to become an urgent issue. If we need to do something visible with the issue, whether maybe it's not money, but it is the education piece. And if we look after the ones, like if you feel excavating is the way to go, should it be, that's what you do, and there's money for our budget to do it here, but I think they're looking for a big push so that the messaging comes out and it's a consistent message, and that it's, so I feel we should support the idea
Oh, yes.
somehow, make sure that, because if it gets in, we're gonna lose, you lose your waterfront, you lose your rivers, and you lose your wetlands, and you lose turtle habitat. So I think it is an important issue.
Yeah,
It is.
And it has come to county, and I think the support will be coming from there, and the communication. I think for us, from a township perspective, yes, I think it needs to be the communication piece, and hopefully moving that forward into the private sector at some point.
It's almost like,
And monitoring, like Jeff, if you see that, hey, it's getting out of hand.
Remember, we actually had signs posted at patches of it, so people were aware what it was
Mhm.
up north, so this is a lot of people.
yeah,
Yeah,
so, yeah.
exactly.
It's almost like the farmer's problem with, what is it, flea bane?
Leaving,
Yeah, like it's taken over farmers' fields big
purple
time.
root stripe is another one.
Okay, so, Councillor Ward, go ahead.
Thank you through you, Mayor. Yes, I think it's the educational piece. And I think that Tom did say that it's a multi-year venture, like, it is starting. So perhaps buying, do monitoring and see what happens, and then perhaps put money forward at a later date. Thank you.
Okay. Comment? Go ahead.
He asked for us to tell him so that they have some idea of the collective notion. So is there something that we should do around that, so that, because I think for these types of things, it's either he asked for a commitment or not a commitment, so I just feel that we should honor his request and giving an answer of some kind.
Right.
I don't know what the answer, I mean, I think we're all in favor of an education piece, but at this time, it doesn't feel like there'd be consensus for budget beyond here, but I don't know. So,
He needs an answer.
He needs it by the 28th.
So yeah, notional interest expressed by November 28th. Do we meet?
And just through you, Mayor, I think
Yes.
that's what I was gonna say, because you had added that to your list,
Yeah.
so I think that's an option at that time, and then we can give him the answer.
Oh.
Yeah, that's.
All right. Okay, that's all for general business. Okay, moving along to closed session, we are now going to move into closed session and I'll state the time at 3:44. We'll do it with the importance of sections 239 to section K and B of the Municipal Act 2001. Can I have a mover? Yep. Councilor Walsh with a recess. And seconder, Councilor Hodge Greaves, all in favor, motion's carried. You, okay. We're back in regular session. Moving along, we have no notice of motion. Bylaws, no?
Thank you, Mayor, and through you. So we'll just shuffle the numbers along to the confirmatory bylaw. That the bylaw to confirm the proceedings of the regular meeting of the Council of the Township of Asphodel-Norwood held November 10, 2025, be read a first, second, and third time and numbered 2025-51.
Mover. Councilor Walsh. Councilor Hodge Greaves, all in favor, motion's carried. Okay, council. A future meeting schedule has been provided and you will be updated shortly with the 2026 schedule, which is now conclusive business for today. May I get a motion to adjourn from the meeting, and the time is 4:28. Deputy Mayor Burt. And Councilor Walsh, all in favor. Motion's carried. Thank you, everyone.